competition. I think we're good to go. This is not in the way. All right, I'll turn it over to Jonathan and Christine.
Thank you so much. All right, we're here again. Welcome everyone to the Kravis Concept Plan Competition hosted by the Drucker School of Management and Claremont Graduate University and the Claremont Colleges. Thank you so much. All right, we've got a little feedback.
You can check out what you said.
There we go. Perfect. Okay. It's good to know we're on a 5-second feed, so if we make any mistakes, we can just cut them out with the live feed, presumably.
At least we can think of Chris words.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. All the F-bombs I'm about to drop. Welcome everyone. This is the 32nd annual running of the Kravis Concept Plan Competition. This is a competition that was endowed by Henry Kravis to support entrepreneurship and the passions and visions of Claremont College students and alumni as they make their way from this wonderful educational environment out into the world and make an impact in the same way that Kravis has made an impact. This year, we will have an award up to $10,000 to the team or teams that present the strongest concept plans. And I'm here with my colleague, Christine Kawamura, who is a faculty member at the Drucker School, runs our entrepreneurship sequences, and is going to introduce our I guess contestants would be the word, but the teams we're going to be presenting today.
Great, thanks. Welcome everybody. We're really excited to support your work and have you present today. So we had a total of 16 submissions to the contest. Jonathan and I read and studied each of those, and we down selected those to our 6 final submissions, our finalists here, really based on a number of criteria, but I think principally is the concept itself, its viability, its potential in the marketplace, and also your understanding of building those different aspects of the business and the business model around the concept. Our finalists represent many different schools here at the Claremont Colleges. CGU from the schools of Drucker, IST, and Math, from CMC, KGI, and Pomona. There's a range of concepts that you'll see. They're pretty much all technology or app-based, and they all attempt to resolve issues and create better processes in the areas of energy generation, geospatial management, social activism, and health services. And they will be introducing themselves when they go through their concept.
Thanks. Today, I also want to thank our volunteer judges. We have with us a representation of the Claremont Colleges again, Peter Zajac, who graduated from Claremont Graduate University and is the CEO of SurgeLogs. We have Andrew Glazier, who graduated from Pomona College and is the CEO and president of Defy Ventures. And we have Miles Bird, who graduated from Claremont McKenna, who is the partner and founder of Story House Ventures, a venture capital company. So I think with those introductions done, thank you to our judges. Thank you and congratulations to the finalists for getting this far. And welcome everybody who is joining us online for the live stream. And without further ado, we will kick it off to our first presenters.
And I'm actually going to step in with a couple housekeeping things.
Oh.
And I hope you two don't hate me, but I'm looking at speakers and headphones here, and I'm wondering if we need to keep that on. I'm going to close this out. And we're still streaming. So I'm just going to recap all of that in the description of the YouTube video that you just shared, because I'm not sure if that picked up on audio or not. Okay. I was thinking about it as I was reading speakers and headphones, but that's okay, because what we want to get to is the presentations, absolutely. And again, I know I've shared this a little bit as you guys were trickling in, but just to kind of recap. So 15 minutes is the amount of time that you all have to present. You'll get 5 minutes of Q&A, and that's going to be just between our judges and the finalists. So I know we have a couple of folks in the room who are here supporting, and as well as the other finalists. but really that Q&A time is strictly for our judges, for you guys to ask questions. So I would ask judges that you just hold those questions till that time. We'll keep that 5 minutes for that. We will have a break at about 2:25. You're welcome to, if you need to use the restroom and you're not presenting, please feel free to do so. It's just all the way down the hall here and to the left. And then there were refreshments, but I don't see them anymore. I'm hoping they're just restocking them, so hopefully they'll be there again soon. And if not, we'll have plenty of refreshments at the end of the evening in the awards reception. And then one more point about the presentation, I do have a 3-minute sign that I'll be holding, and I'll be sitting right here in eyesight. So I know some of you will prefer to keep time. You're welcome to do that if you want, but know that I'll be doing that, and I'll flag you at that 3-minute point so you can start to think about how you want to kind of start wrapping up and summarizing things. So, all right, and I think with that, we're going to go ahead and welcome up our first team, which is going to be Good Change. And I don't see Sean in the waiting room quite yet, but I know we're a little bit ahead of the 1:15 mark. Did you guys want to come maybe start getting set up and we'll,
Sure.
Great. Oh.
Sean, are you a problem? It's 1:15. We're starting a little bit. Okay.
And he's got his, okay.
All right, see you later.
Start.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think we'll just use the, actually, we're not gonna- if I do need to keep it on. Wait.
Just before you begin, I just wanted to make one final announcement. We're very happy that Carolyn Stevens was able to join us as the fourth of our judges for today's contest for the Kravis concept plan. Carolyn's also a graduate of the Drucker School of Management, like Peter Zajac is. Currently the Director of Enterprise Collaborations at UCI Applied Innovations and a member of CGU's Board of Trustees. So everyone behave.
All right, and Sean, can you hear us okay?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, and we can see you. There we go.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
Right. Turn it over to Kevin times 2.
Thank you.
And just give me 1 second to sit down because I want to start my timer for you guys. So thank you so much. And I'll give you the green light. All right, you guys all ready? Okay. Right ahead.
Well, welcome everybody. Today we'll be presenting our pitch competition idea, Good Change. My name is Kevin Wilmot. I'm a college junior studying math and economics, and I focus on finance. My name is Kevin Lee. I'm a first year at CMC studying data science and econ, and I'm responsible for research and analytics.
And I am supposed to be a sophomore at Pomona College studying philosophy, but I'm currently taking a leave of absence to focus full-time on Good Change, and I focus on leadership within our team. Next slide, please. So we are a collection of students from the Claremont colleges on a mission to change the world for the better. And if I'd have to mention one thing that I believe makes us unique, it's that each of us are not only very passionate about creating positive social change, but we're also incredibly analytical of the outside world. We tend to automatically and rigorously scrutinize things. And that's exactly what we did during the Black Lives Matter movement, which is actually why we also observed some of the key realizations which would ultimately pave the way for our call to action. BLM served as a case study for us to examine the 3 main realities of the current philanthropy space, which are the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good being that people really care, and they care enough to donate. $90 million was raised for purely BLM-related causes. And if we widen our scope just a bit, we see that historically Black colleges and universities received 7 times more donations. But good people were often met with bad systems. $4.5 million was donated to a fake BLM organization. And in 2021, $1.5 billion was lost to charity fraud, leading to only 45% of Americans trusting nonprofit organizations in 2022. Finally, on top of the lack of trustworthiness, there was also some pure inefficiency, which we consider to be quite ugly. It takes 4 minutes and 15 seconds on average to complete the donation process. And considering that many people intrinsically consider donating to be supererogatory, which means morally applaudable, but not necessarily morally obligatory, we think that tedium and friction in the donating process likely contributes to an intensified dropout rate of otherwise potential donors. People are busy and they're impatient. And if you want people to actually do something out of the good of their own heart, you need to make it as easy as possible. So that is exactly what we're trying to do. And honestly, we think that we are long overdue. So, welcome to Good Change. We are building the de facto app for donating. We are making it easier than ever to donate because we're on a mission to increase the number, strength, and reach of change makers across the globe. So what's the product? Millions of pre-vetted registered nonprofits that you can search through, evaluate, and donate to all in one place. No more 4 minutes and 15 seconds necessary to make a single donation. With Good Change, you can do it all in one click. You enter your financial information once, and then you can easily donate to any number of charities, all of which are organized and have their own profiles containing key information in one centralized hub. Furthermore, not only can you just take 1 second to donate to one charity, you can take 1 second to donate to 10 charities simultaneously. I'm not sure if everyone is as familiar with this as me and the Kevins, but at least for Gen Z, I'm used to too many Asian names. There's Wu and there's Lee and there's Chen. I'm saying Gen Z. There's a ton of link trees and cards and Google Docs, basically exhaustive lists of charities for people to donate to, circulating throughout social media. These exist for BLM, they exist for Stop Asian Hate, Ukraine, everything. But honestly, when you're given a list of 10 charities and it takes at least 4 minutes to donate to each one, I doubt that you're really going to spend 40 minutes total of your own time donating to all 10 of them. But with Good Change, we have these portfolios called recipes for social good. And you can see one of them on the screen right there. That's like a user's custom recipe. And through recipes, you're able to donate to all of your favorite charities at once. Furthermore, tapping into this consumer growth psychology, you can use and share the recipes of your favorite influencers and activists and friends and celebrities, and you can see what causes people are most passionate about and rally up support in the most streamlined way possible. So on that point of recipes, we're almost done filing our provisional patent for them. Nobody else has anything like it. The sheer utility of a card or link tree, basically, that you can simply donate to in one click, for somebody in our generation at least, is already massive. But beyond that, there currently exists no de facto app for donating because no platform actually encapsulates all of the features to make a real one-stop shop. Happy to elaborate more in Q&A. Definitely want to talk more about Good Change right now. So let's actually talk about the go-to-market strategy. And we move incredibly fast. We have a great team, both in terms of the business Kevins, but also in terms of our tech team. We have Mutters and Pomona CS majors who are really, really grinding. So in response to the Ukraine humanitarian crisis, you can see at the top, 1 in 4 Americans have already donated, but 2/3 of those who have not given already are saying that they're considering donating soon. So we are, sorry, I have spring allergies, about 75% done with what we call as our triple MVP, minimum viable product, which is going to be released on April 15, in 1 week from now, which is just going to have 1 mobile-friendly web app, 1 Ukraine recipe. It's going to have 10 of the best charities that you can donate to, all basically exactly what all these link trees and cards have been circulating around, telling people to donate to, except there's going to actually have a donate button in which you're able to efficiently donate in a streamlined, easy way. And you can share that, you can embed it. It's just like all the link trees and cards. And this will eventually, like, hopefully show some proof of concept, show some market validation. From there on, we're going to be adding 10 more Good Change like founding chef recipes. So these are influence and activists that we're reaching out to, as well as like these nonprofit entrepreneurs, people who are very like experts in the space, who are going to be crafting their own recipes so that we can have some sort of like ethos backing us up, as well as 9 more Good Change originals, which are just like the Ukraine-centric recipe. And that's going to be released on May 1st, just to show a little bit more of the sort of research backing that Good Change has. And finally, the MVP, which really encapsulates everything that we're trying to work for. That's what I just presented about. That's when you can have charity search and donation, custom recipe creation, and more. And that's what we're incredibly excited about. And hopefully we'll be able to have a large user base for the MVP as we keep on trying to scale up by using our triple MVP and double MVP. Now, in terms of monetization, it's actually very, very simple. Just like PayPal or Venmo, we use microtransactions. That's for V1, and V1 is probably going to last at least for the next year. After that, as we tend to actually try to partner more with the charities, because right now we're doing a bunch of web scraping. As we partner more with the charities, we'll have more information about who those charities are, and then we'll also be able to tailor ads specific to the charity profiles. So unlike the very corrupt way that Facebook does it, in which they really try to steal your user information, we're going to have tailored ads in which they're based on the profile that you navigate to. So if you navigate to Black Lives Matter, you're going to be featured with some potential Black-owned businesses that you might like to support, just like that. And finally, we can also be releasing some merchandise in which you can say that 50% goes to the Trevor Project, for example, or Red Cross, or some other donation, some other thing that you would regularly donate to, and 50% would go to Good Change. But that's definitely way more exploratory. But in terms of what we're actually focusing on right now, I'll pass it to Kevin. I'll pass it to Kevin Wu.
Yes. So I want to talk a little bit about pricing. And before I dive into pricing, I want to talk a little bit about Costco. So personally, I love Costco. Costco's awesome. If you don't know its business model, it actually caps its gross margin, operating margin, I believe at 14%. And so all the other earnings and savings that it has, it gives back to the consumer. And that's why you see this awesome brand strategy, this I love Costco sort of mentality. When you go to Costco, you get these free samples. We wanted to take a similar approach to Good Change. We wanted to cap our revenue take of our microtransaction and give the rest back to nonprofits and consumers donating to the causes and organizations that they really care about. And so 2 features that I really want to talk about. Number 1 is that we cap our processing fee at 10%. That's half of what charities and nonprofits are currently costing in order to fundraise $1. So charities, in order to bring $1 worth of fundraising, spend 20% of that dollar to bring that $1. We cut that in half. And so breaking down the 10% processing fee, we cap our ticket at 3.5%. Again, sort of like Costco. If we earn more or if we generate more efficiencies, we pass that on to the charities and we pass it on to the consumers. The other breakdown to the API and other services we use in order to make our app a reality. And so Stripe takes 2.9%. Get Change API, which allows us to collect all the information about the different organizations, takes 1.5%. And Plaid takes approximately 5%, which is a fixed cost based off of the assumption that our initial users will be donating only $20 in a year. So yeah, that's pricing.
So Kevin, we just discussed how we'll be making money. Now I'll discuss who we're going to be making money from. We are building for younger generations, particularly millennials and Gen Zers. Their contributions during the pandemic demonstrated their desire to help, with 3 in 4 millennials and 2 in 3 Gen Zers donating money. It doesn't stop there, however, since these generations are the ones behind the recent high-profile social media. During the Black Lives Matter movement, hashtag Black Lives Matter received 12 billion views on TikTok, 24 million hashtag Black Lives Matter posts were made on Instagram, and 48 million tweets used the hashtag Black Lives Matter.
So now we want to turn to the numbers. What exactly do the numbers say about this demographic? What exactly? So we start with the overall donation volume statistic. $471 billion were donated in the US in 2020. Of course, that's not our market. We only take a percentage share of that. And so using our max cap 3.5%, we reach the broader market of 16.5 billion. Now, not all of those donations are capturable. Not all of them are processed online. Approximately 20%, and that's growing very rapidly, of donations are processed online. And so that comes to 3.3 billion. From that 3.3 billion, we really want to, I want to go back to what Kevin was just talking about earlier. Our target market, our target demographic. And that boils down to the 90 million 15 to 35-year-olds who are socially conscious and are tech savvy. Again, donating at only $20 a year, that brings our target market to 1.8 billion. And so that's what we're working with. That's what we're shooting to target at the outset.
Furthermore, statistics show that this market is rapidly growing. Despite a global pandemic and millions of people losing their jobs, Americans gave a record $471 billion in charity in 2020, which is a 3.8% increase over 2019, adjusted for inflation. Between 1977 and 2017, yearly donations have increased by an average of $9 billion per year. Another positive trend is that online donations are on the rise. 2020 saw a 20.7% increase in online giving, which is part of a 3-year growth of 32%. Small to large organizations, all of which will be encompassed by Good Change, all saw double-digit percentage growth in both 2020 online giving trends and in 3-year rolling trends.
And we know how to make the most of these trends because we are actually Gen Zers who understand them. We understand how consumer social works, and we think that leveraging consumer social for social impact is actually the best way to go. We'll be optimizing for power users, which are the actual recipe makers, to incentivize our growth, and I'll be happy to explain more about our growth plan in Q&A. But overall, we really want to thank you so much for your time and also explain to you a little bit more about really where Good Change is coming from. We aim to be a public benefit corp. Next slide, please. And this means that our number one responsibility is to try to maximize public benefit, maximize social impact, whereas our number two is to maximize profits for shareholders. And we think that really the ecosystem that the Claremont colleges have created is the perfect place for Good Change to grow and thrive. And that's why we would immensely appreciate your support. So thank you so much. We personally don't wait for change, we make it. And we would love to improve this world together. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, judges, we'll turn it over to you. I'm going to add minute 30 to your Q&A because you guys finished a little bit early. So I'll go ahead and set the clock for 6 minutes and 30 seconds. I told you guys I was going to time keep. Wasn't messing around. All right, judges, it's all you. And whoever can start, no order.
Great. Thanks so much for the presentation. Lots of great work in there. So a couple of questions. You started off by talking about you want to have millions of pre-vetted charities. So I'm curious, when you say pre-vetted, what does that mean? And also, if you have 1 million pre-vetted charities, doesn't that defeat the purpose of pre-vetting them?
I can take this question, and then Kevin, you can hop on afterwards. Does that sound good? By the way, I can't hear. Does that sound? Can you show me a thumbs up?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. I think we're having some technical difficulties, but it can I? Okay. So shoot. I'm gonna keep on talking, and you tell me if you don't hear me. I don't hear anything from your end. But thank you, whoever asked that question. By the way, I also don't see you. I only see the Kevins. But first of all, we're able to do all of that through GetChange, which is our API. It's a nonprofit itself, and it also uses a bunch of governmental data, from which like they have all the overhead metrics, a bunch of other metrics, and then we're able to scrape all of that by giving them a percentage of our margins, and then from there. The reason why I think that the pre-vetting is still considered pre-vetting and it's still helpful is that you're going to have all these comparative metrics. Not only do you have GetChange, but we're also scraping data from Charity Navigator and elsewhere to make it such that like you're actually going to be seeing like different rankings and different scores from which you can base your assumptions off of. And additionally, we want to include all these charities because eventually like we want to create this sort of like implicit marketplace. This is another bonus of the social good aspect, from which like these charities can see like, oh shoot, we're pretty low in the rankings here because we haven't been as ethical, so we want to actually become a little bit more ethical. That's some of our reasoning behind allowing a broader net, but still like every single one of our charities meets this like sort of minimum threshold that we consider is still like contributing some positive good to society. Can you give me a thumbs up if you heard that? Okay, sweet, thank you.
I was just going to quickly add to that. So to contextualize that marketplace piece a little bit, the best charities or nonprofits are not the ones that get paid. The best charities and nonprofits are the ones that can market the most effectively. And so what we want to do is create some transparency in the nonprofit and charity marketplace, such that smaller charities who may not have the capital to market themselves effectively are still able to compete with some of these more institution, perhaps less efficient, larger nonprofits and charities, and help those who are more efficient get that limelight that they deserve.
I have sort of a bit of a follow-on question on that same line. Great presentation. Thank you for the good information to cause the questions to come up. That's always a good sign. I'm caught in you have a $1.8 billion primary target market, and that is for those people $20, 15 to 35 one-time transaction. So it's a transactional play. Do you have an idea what the capture rate is on that, or the same? And that's part A, and part B is a follow-on of understanding. You're going to bring visibility in 1 million charities. You're going to bring 1 million visibility to those in some way, and really, I'm trying to figure out where the cost or that because I'm trying to go between how is this a payment method versus a value creation presentation method.
Okay.
So part A or B.
Okay, so I'll take the piece about the market capture, and I'll tie a little bit into growth strategy, and then I'll hand it off to Kevin and Sean if they want to talk a little bit about the latter piece. So with the target market and the capture rate, 1.8 billion is like, of course, the ideal market that we want to capture, and we believe that that market is out there. However, where we start with is not necessarily all of those 15 to 35-year-olds, but we'll start with what we know, which is like college students. And so I think the statistic is there's something like 15 million college undergraduates within the United States. And so if you're running like realistic, where are we really starting from numbers, you take 15 million, you multiply it by 20, and you get 300 million in revenue. And again, we start there, but we expand outwards to reach that the market that we were talking about earlier with the 15 to 35-year-olds. But we believe where we can target most effectively, and we can really get some traction on, are those people in undergraduate who are thinking about the sort of things that we're thinking about, and then we can link them to this platform to enable them to more efficiently donate to and support the causes today.
Okay, I think I heard all that. There might be some lag. Was the second part of the question basically asking to what extent is this was it asking like what's the value in our product? Is
It was basically, it was questioning the payment processing function and the connectivity, but how are you parsing truly parsing 1 million charities to and creating the value of giving visibility? I mean, that unless you have an algorithm that's phenomenal, or how do you figure out how to parse it and give visibility, truly give visibility to those that are otherwise undermarketed?
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, so each charity has a collection of different tags. So for example, you're going to have like racial equality, queer equality, sustainability, etc. And from there, we will be evaluating. So we will have some sort of like a social feed algorithm in which we're just going to be like tracking user data like on the app, and then seeing what people interact with most, who actually like ends up contributing the most, sort of in like a sort of Spotify nature, from which you can also sort of like recommend related charities from there. But for the most part, it's not supposed to be as much of a charity discovery app as it is to make the charity donating process as easy as possible. So you will be able to search through any of the millions of charities. For sure, you might not like readily see the 900,000th charity like in our list. Like that might not be something that you you just end up seeing. But like you're going to be able to search alphabetically, of course, by name, and then filter through tags, and then also filter like through potentially like who your followers might be donating to, or like some of your some of the activists that you're following as well. I hope that sort of answers your question. Also, Kevin Lee, feel free to hop in if you have any other thoughts.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
You know, I know you're up next. Let me get you ready. Thank you, Sean. Sorry you couldn't hear us very well. I guess we're there. Right.
Thank you. I think I heard that. Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Nafius? Nafus. As long as you know how to say
We'll
it.
address that.
That's all that matters. Awesome. All right, and I'll go ahead and you can either use keyboard or mouse, either one.
Yeah.
Let me just get back to my seat. I'll give you the green light here.
Cool.
Any questions, judges, after the first round? Kind of an idea of how quick it goes by. All right. And Sam, I've got 15 minutes on the clock, and I'll start the green button whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. I guess, thank you for having me. My name is Sam Maligon. I am in my last semester at CGU doing math masters, specifically focusing on machine learning, AI, the sexy topics. My career has been as a software engineer. So for the past 7 years, I've been developing software applications for the military. And I am here representing my company, NAFVs. It's software for ocean conservation, and we do that through planning and logistics. So what is NAFVs, right? It's a kind of a funny name, NAFIAs. People think it's associated with financing. But actually, it's a term that I picked up while working at the Naval Research Lab, specifically working on submarine navigation feasibility, right? Think of like a route planning tool for subs, where, and a big term that was important was, what's the feasibility of this? So it's kind of a term that resonated with me in terms of my current venture. And so for us, NAVFees is a way to navigate environmentalism. It's our bringing that mission control room that we use for subs to solve environmental issues. So to talk about environmental issues, who here is familiar with bycatch? Bycatch, okay. Well, for those of you that aren't familiar, we're just going to talk a little bit about it. So for the fishing industry, a lot of us think of fishing as like a farmed industry, like we're farming fish. But in reality, that's not true. We're hunting fish. Just because it's in a grocery store doesn't mean that it's farmed, right? We go out there with our hunting tools, whether they're fishing vessels, nets, what have you. And the issue is that we can't see under the water. It's kind of simplistic to say, but because there's lack of visibility, we have our hunting tools that are inherently imprecise, which causes catching things inadvertently bycatch. So annually, there's 27 million tons of bycatch. So species that were caught inadvertently, generally it's 40% of what people catch gets thrown back. And when I say thrown back, I mean they're dead. So that's 27 million tons of marine corpses, sad. What happens is that it causes havoc on keystone species. Think of keystone species as like vital organs in a body. If your heart stops pumping, you die. In the same sense, if keystone species go extinct, the whole ecosystem collapses and there's no fish for people to eat. And it's not just an environmental issue. There's a humanitarian component and an economic component as well. So currently 3.5 billion people rely on the ocean as a primary source of protein. That's 1 in 5 people globally. And just in the United States, the amount of bycatch that we have amounts to about $1 billion in waste. So we're going to talk a little bit more on how this works, but just really quick. So on the left, this is a picture. There's dolphins mixed in with the fish. On the right, that's an entangled whale. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in our use case. But currently, 1/3 of all fish stocks are being overfished, meaning that they're prone to collapse. And 57% of all fish stocks are at capacity, meaning that they're at risk of being overfished. So how did we get from military software to the ocean, right? So my career has been in building mission control room type software, right? Where we have logistics, we have people, we have operations out in a physical space and time, and we're trying to be proactive and meet our goals. So that's my experience. And I was working in Monterey at the Naval Research Lab building that submarine navigation feasibility software. And I had this great opportunity of running into these turtle conservationists. And they were describing to me this very similar problem. They had all these people and logistics, and they're trying to save the turtles. But the issue is that the turtles aren't just at the beach where they lay their eggs, they migrate throughout the ocean. So as soon as they leave the beach, they're not very protected. And I was like, oh, so you have things that are moving over space and time, kind of like a submarine. And you want to avoid conflict or overlap. So I was like, I know how to build this kind of software. And specifically with my ML AI experience and some of the collaborators that I've been working with, we're going to model the migration patterns. So have something, a service similar to heavy chance of rain, but heavy chance of turtles. So help people avoid that interaction, giving them eyes under the water to do those logistics. So my biggest competitor is the current process. And the current process being Excel sheets. If you saw on actually this last slide, the bottom right is a marine spatial plan with it, which is a 60 to 100 page PDF document that has a bunch of maps, and they say, okay, over the next 3 years, you have to be here. But if you can imagine, that's not very responsive. Not like, you know, the top scenario where you're working with things in real time. So we have Excel, PDF, ArcGIS, which is basically just taking screenshots of a map with your data, and a dream, right? They're all very optimistic, trying to save, you know, whatever their venture is, they're trying to do good. And what we're transitioning to is more of this mission control room-esque application that does project planning similar to like Asana or Jira, right? But integrating that geospatial component and the data analytics to do that forecasting. So you can manage not only your internal operations, but be alerted to what's happening externally, like turtles. So let's talk about a use case. So I had this great opportunity to talk to the entanglement response coordinator in Long Beach. His name's Justin, really nice guy. And we were talking about some of the issues that he was facing. So he is responsible for handling whales that are entangled that pass through his area of operation. So he's responsible for a swath of ocean. And he's trying to do the best with what he has. So for those of you that aren't familiar with whale entanglement, think of it as like a subcategory of bycatch, where think of whales as like big cats. They like to scratch themselves by swimming through fields of kelp. And there are crab cages, right, where we catch crabs. There are cages on the ocean floor tethered to a buoy on the surface. And whales see it and think of kelp and swim through in a similar fashion, and will wrap thousands of pounds of gear around themselves and drag it from Baja California all the way up to Alaska until they can no longer come up for air and they drown. So it's tragic, and you know, from an environmental standpoint, the fishermen are losing their gear, and there's downtime for that. But specifically for Justin, he has to put out fires constantly, right? When there's whale season, for him to come through his area, he gets a phone call in the middle of the night, and he has to find out like the people that are closest by, that he has to dispatch them, right? Versus having that forecasting application, heavy chance of whales, and seeing, so the green area could be, say, next week, whales are coming through your area of operation. We can post several people along that route to be ready for them and be responsive. So NOAA is the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration, for those of you that aren't familiar. They are the portion of our government under the Department of Commerce that does regulates the fishing industry, and they do marine conservation as well as climate change response. So they're basically like the protectors of the environment from the ocean perspective. So our market. So we have our TAM stamps on. So I'm learning these marketing terms because I'm an engineer. So our beachhead market, another great term, is NOAA. So that's in our phase one. We're trying to work with that group specifically that I mentioned in Long Beach. And so NOAA has put out just in this year, they added an additional $144 million towards marine mammal conservation. And the exact same amount towards fishery sustainability. So we kind of get in on both of those. So the green space is where we're going to start out, and that's a realistic figure. I've seen comparable systems like this used, purchased by military for deployment contracts or development contracts. Sorry, where we develop an application, and it's generally about $10 million per development contract. So not going to say that we hit those exact numbers, but I think it's comparable. And then phase two, we build something that works for the government locally. We go federally, then we go internationally, right? And then we're also going to reshift and go towards fisheries in phase two. So instead of that big development contract as like a development partner, we have fisheries that we can give like $1,000 a year license for the standard fee. And based off of the number of commercial fishing vessels in the United States and globally, that's where we get those figures. So I think this is a really low ballpark for the actual numbers, but this is just to put some realistic figures up there. So who are the key players in the space? Who's in the ocean and who makes a difference? So there's the regulatory groups that we just talked about. There's like the government, NOAA. There's our marine commercial industry, so our fishing industry, that kind of stuff. And then we have our research community, kind of like the bleeding hearts, the marine biologists that are out there that are collecting data, but it doesn't really go anywhere. And we're going to try to capture that. But long term, we would like to create a synergistic relationship between all three of these spaces so they're not fighting against each other and actually addressing some of the issues like that. So getting to market, here's our 6-month timeline for getting our minimum viable product with some cost estimations. Those are largely mitigated because I'm doing the engineering. So we're starting out with grant proposals that we're submitting at least initially, and then we're going towards, these are the feature sets, and then in November, we're aiming to have our minimum viable product that we're going towards that beachhead market. So this isn't just something that's idealistic, it's realistic. I've built several software applications and I've managed several software teams. So even if I don't get anyone to help me, I can do this. So not that I want to do it myself, it takes a village. So currently there's myself, Sam Maligon, in the same attire that I'm wearing right now. And so I'm a software engineer, ML engineer. I have my partner, Joe Maligon, same last name because she's my mom. And there's nobody that I trust more to sell the company. She is fearless, has 20 years of running her own business, and I have full faith in her. So we currently have some interns at the 5 Cs. They're helping out with some of our data science problems. Just kind of going there, we have industry partners that are partnering us for data. So Upwell is for turtle data. The National Marine Mammal Foundation is a group in Baja that we're getting whale data from. And then we have some scientists. So we have Dr. Gu, who is a professor at Harvey Mudd. She is on several machine learning boards, so she's helping us with some of that forecasting aspect. And then we have our environmental consultants. So Yeah, so please support us. On a more real note, I'm really tired of hearing that there's everything wrong in the world and that there's nothing that we can do about it. This is something that we can do. So please support us and add eyes under the water and help us prevent that environmental collapse and offset that humanitarian crisis because it's feasible. Thank you.
You're about 10 seconds shy of the 15-minute mark, so well done.
Crushed it.
Do you want me to give you 5 minutes and 10 seconds?
Let's do it.
All right, judges, you got 5 minutes and 10 seconds. Let's hear your questions.
I was curious, what type of burden would this put on fishing fleets should they use this software?
Yeah, so I think it's comparable to any kind of project management tool like Asana. Like there's some uptime in terms of like training the team, but ideally, like the tools that I would market towards fisheries would be to help them optimize their own practice. Like we could do forecasting for where our fish populations, right? As well as like avoidance with regulations. We can do similar to dolphin safe products. Are you guys familiar with dolphin safe? So we can do ethical fishing as like another marketing ploy. But in terms of, there will be some training, but hopefully not as bad as ArcGIS, which requires like a 3D work. You guys are
And do you have a sense of like, maybe this is the wrong way to think about it, you tell me, but
yeah.
What proportion of like the net fishing availability or time is like cut from like fishermen's like fishing space should they use this product?
What
like in my head, I'm imagining I'm a fishery. Heretofore, I've been able to fish 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I probably would do that.
Right.
What proportion of, but now, like you don't want to go out in May in this 30% proportion of your typical fishing time. So they have 70% left, and so
right.
and so all the local
downtime.
Fishermen are now competing for that smaller area. Am I understanding?
Yeah.
correctly?
So it's like where and when to fish. So it could just be, hey, like whales tend to cluster towards the coast, so you can go a little bit more out to sea. Or like for example, this slide where if we were to talk about this being like a fishery, we could say their area of operation on the right side is impacted, on the left it's wide open.
And then are there any species for which like are more predictable or less predictable than others?
Yeah, so that's why we're starting out with migratory species. Something similar to a weather forecast, and I use weather because there's climatology and meteorology. You have your long-term models and your short-term models, like the weather station, right? So generally we can say in the month of May, things are this way, right? But you have your weather station that says, actually, a storm is coming through. So we're doing comparable types of models with migratory patterns first, and then we can start to do like heat map, like dispersion, or other populations that tend to be in like one location.
One more question. Do you have any LOIs or design partners with any of these conservation organizations that this is the initial beachhead market?
LOI?
Letter of intent.
Letter of intent. No, not yet. Just a lot of verbal confirmation.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
So imagine everything in place, all the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Will you sell it? Like, pick up the phone and sell it to me. If I'm the end client, then who am I?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, at the end of the day, it's like it's a form of a project planning tool for operations throughout my physical space.
And like, who's your end client? Like, who do you?
Yeah. Who is going to be using it?
Yes.
So there's the environmental specialists that are used. So that 60-page PDF document that I was talking about. There's like, for example, Justin or some of the other people that are under him, some analysts, are tasked with implementing those plans. And they have long-lasting plans. Like, so say, for example, they have like a quarterly analysis and say, we have to meet these deadlines in these spaces, but that doesn't tell them how that relates to their workflow and their current day-to-day activities. So there's the environmental specialist that's tasked with like, hey, I need to go out there and like, pull or like.
But like, who's the buyer? Is the foundation? Is this a government organization?
The government organization is our beachhead market, and then fisheries would be another customer, and then research industry later.
I get the government piece, the conservation side. I guess the heavy chance of tuna one is if you're a fishery.
Yeah.
That I'm not quite as clear as how that's going to help you with the bycatch. And do you end up contributing to overfishing as a result of? I think that's kind of where you were going towards. Is okay, now everybody actually knows all the tuna's off Catalina.
Right.
I'm going there. I'm not sure. I don't understand the fishing industry well enough to understand the ethical quandary that this might create. And that's
right. Yeah. So I see what you're saying. So the reason why we're starting first with the government is to like have them be like a development partner and kind of be an extension of like being aware of the regulatory space. So it could start out with ethical fishing, where it's avoidance of endangered species.
Yeah, the conservation piece I get.
And
I think that's actually the most compelling piece, is the conservation side.
Right.
The fishery side, I think, starts to get away from the doing good piece.
Right.
So I'm not clear on the case you're making. I don't know if that was enough time for the nice virtuous circle you're talking about, where they're not competing. But I do get the conservation idea on the migratory stuff.
Well, the more visibility that we have, that also goes towards the government.
Yeah.
So, and we can have the government say like what amount of information that they want to release.
Mm-hmm.
So I could pass through NOAA.
Yeah, or the regulatory side, right? If you're saying, hey, this is off limits because we know there's a pass-through right now.
Or for example, so there's marine protected areas, right? Which is areas are off limits. So if NOAA were to like off limit an area,
sure,
they could like that would alert anyone in the planning process.
You could do like a mobile marine fishery protected area that kind of follows them up. And just to be clear, that really the core of your product here is you're taking available data and putting in a dynamic software package that heretofore doesn't exist.
Yes.
All right, guys, that's gonna be time.
Thanks.
Thank you. I had just an idea. Could we do 30 seconds at the end of each of these sessions and do like rapid feedback for the presenting teams?
Sure. The only thing is I want to make sure we gave the same thing to our first team.
And
So-
I bet we can do that.
Sure, absolutely. Did you want to start with this session here?
Sure. Well, Trish, are you guys up for that?
Yeah, no, we can factor that in.
Yeah,
We
that'd be
started
great. I'd love
about-
to be able to do that.
We started about 10 minutes early, so we can factor that in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got my 30 seconds ready.
Cool.
Let's
do it.
Yeah. Love your background on this problem. It's awesome that you're solving it. I really felt like you could have honed in on more specifically like what your accomplishments have been and what your mom's accomplishments have been. Like, don't just tell me like you built GIS software for 7 years. Like, you've done X amount of like Y and you tracked Z amount of like A. And also, like to Peter's point, just like really putting me into the shoes of your customer and your buyer. I was really left kind of grasping for like, who are you selling to? What's the value proposition? And what their budgets are, and like you're gonna have to sell this thing. Like, what are those sales cycles? Because I think they're challenging, but there's a great opportunity for you to like educate us on how you're going to go about selling to them.
Right.
Like B2G is not target sales, like you're getting into. So
yeah. No, I'm familiar. So my experience.
Let's do just rapid. Let's do rapid feedback, and we can talk after.
Yeah. So I would say, look, I think you could have started with a clearer picture of what you do, which is, the way I synthesized it was, there's a ton of data out there. it exists in a spreadsheet or on a PDF. It's not dynamic, but this is a dynamic thing. Now, imagine a world
Right.
where this is available, and if I am in conservation, right, I can create a fishing conservation area that moves with the winds. Okay, that sounds exciting to me, right? And then I think you focus on the government, because there's tons of money in government on this stuff here, in the conservation community. And just, I think you could talk about a use case that it's a lot clearer, because the whole bycatch thing, you kind of lost me at some point. It's like, I get the bycatch thing,
Right.
but I still don't understand how this fixes bycatch unless you're supporting government agencies to start to regulate differently or something. So that's the story I was looking for here, which was a little hard for me to get.
Okay.
Same realm, but on the fisheries, it costs down, efficiencies up, catch down. It just, where those are, you only have to go out 6 days per year instead of 12 days per year now, and we're saving that way. Or when we got one, we don't have excess cost of bycatch, but whatever that excess cost directly is, you're offsetting it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Our impact on it.
Thanks.
Cool. I appreciate the feedback. I'll factor that into the next question.
Thank you so much, Sam. And just before I transition that to our third team, do we want to go ahead and give that same kind of feedback to Good Change, where it's still kind of fresh?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
better.
sure, absolutely. I know we've got Kevin. Is other Kevin?
Want me to tear it down?
Oh, we did. Okay. Yeah, Sam,
I'm
we
happy
can
for
pull that down. Absolutely. Yeah, we can pull that down. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin. I know you weren't expecting this, but I think this is good.
Kevin, real quick, I thought the presentation was great, and you guys have a lot of like energy and enthusiasm for this idea. So much of what someone's gonna get excited about when an idea comes at this stage is the credibility of the people who are working on this. And I think you guys talked a lot about, so like, oh, we're Gen Z, we're potential users of this product, but I want to hear more about like what user research have you done, like what things have you built before, like what's your credibility as a team? Like I know folks have done software engineering internships, worked at Google, worked at X, worked at Y. Like really help me get excited also about the team and the level of like insight and work that you've done to like understand this problem space, which is how you arrived at this product that you guys have built.
So team is a team.
Mm-hmm.
More what you guys have done.
Yeah, so I love the story we started with, right? Is it exactly what we said on the like this is targeting Gen Zs and how to think about it. But I think I think to me the deep flaw here is this sort of pre-vetting millions of things. Really, I think your value prop is the idea of curating a set of nonprofits for Gen Z, so that, because if you can look at millions, right, you actually have made the problem worse of finding the amount of time it takes to figure out what you want to give to. The influencers I thought was really interesting. Just keep in mind though that influencers actually will bump to the top the nonprofits that have better marketing and who are more connected. And so you actually hurt the smaller guys out there who don't have the influencer relationships. But I think there's something really interesting about this idea of like, what if we had a way to give you a curated set of nonprofits that were really going to appeal to undergrads with $20 to give, or $27 to $20 to give, that really had a finger on the pulse. And then actually then your relationship to the nonprofit world becomes more of like, hey, apply to become one of our curated nonprofits, tell us who you are and what you do. Now this is a bigger job because you can't delegate this to an algorithm, but I think it actually is a much bigger value proposition if you are able to build trust, and that gets to your reputation piece, right? Of like, who are you and why should we trust you? And then you're able to say, well, this is us, and we have crowdsourced this, or like we have, smart people across the country and undergrads who are thinking about these things that we vetted, and now you can get on here. So think about that, the curation piece versus the everybody piece. And then the last thing is 10%, and this is coming from a nonprofit. That's a big cut to take off the top. So think about that. Stripe is crazy expensive. I mean, you could hook up with PayPal. We're going to do something for cheap. I don't understand what Plaid does, but anyway, these are things to think about in terms of what is the value that you want to provide. Because I think there's something here, and I love the enthusiasm that you guys have, but I don't think it's pre-vetting millions of charities. That's the piece that I think you want to rethink. Okay.
I think you
because they have great energy. I may follow up with a question. So I did get the pricing. I was writing the numbers down. So you said plate takes 5%.
It's a fixed cost.
Then there's stripe with 2%. Then there's something else with 2.5%. That's already 9.5%.
Right.
So are you getting that 0.5% to cap it at 10? I don't get it.
Exactly. So we cap it at 10. Initially, so we cap our own, you can take it to 0.5. We cap the total processing fee at 10. We're taking initial loss on initial users for growth. And then once we get past a certain volume where people start donating more, that's when the math gets interesting. And then the 3.5% actually comes to the point.
Okay. So you're operating on a pretty slow margin there for some time.
Yes.
And okay, just to clarify, taking that, let's say you're established big company targeting 1.8 billion at 3.5%, that's $63 million. Tops.
So we already built it with 3.5% in an earlier calculation. So it's 16.5 billion to start, which is a 3.5% of 471 billion. So everything that is following is already calculated with 3.5%.
All right, makes sense. So I would concur. I just wanted to clarify. I understand the model.
Yeah, similar comments. Great energy, great, good focus on what you're wanting to accomplish, and with who. But on the opposite question is, I was trying to figure out the pivot, either opportunistically or either offensively or defensively, or how are you prepared for, if it's more like a payment platform, why would a payment platform not want to go upstream potentially in this market and be able to take it in a big way? And if it's the opposite, that it's really a vetting tool, a value add vetting tool, there are you have potential pivots, a couple different directions. So I'm looking at what your overall plan is, your end game. Are you planning to create this and be out quickly, or are you planning to create this and build it big? And I wasn't sure.
Okay, yeah, we should put that. We want this to be like not only the de facto ad for donating, like that de facto platform for everything that's social media. And so that's like the big aspirational market, but in terms of what we're launching with, it's this app. We know Gen Z. We have the tech side for the most part in place, and so.
And it's US dollar only, by the way.
Sorry?
You're US dollar only, no crypto, no nothing, just straight.
So crypto is actually something we thought about exploring, but it's still put up there.
Good.
Thanks, all.
Cool.
All right, we're ready for it. Thank you so much. All right, so let's welcome up our 13 Kravis assessments. All right, you tell me when you're good and I will start my 15-minute clock back here.
Yes, ma'am.
What's that?
This presentation.
Is that presentation?
Yeah, it should be. If you can click through it, it should be. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right, you tell me when you're ready, okay?
Good to go.
All right.
So, hi everyone. My name is Oki Onwuka. I'm representing my team, Howard, Clement, and Tracy. We are fathers, mothers, students, workers, and I'm here to talk about concept for risk assessment now. But before I do that, I'm here to talk about seasons of life. So we're all familiar with seasons of nature. We have spring, summer, fall, and winter. Always in that order. If all truth is parallel, we also have seasons in life, right? We have spring and summer, which represent youth and youthfulness, right? And fall and winter represents the older years. I'll give you a story. A couple of years ago, my wife and I had just moved into a new house, and we were painting the garage late at night, and we got locked out. So It's 12 a.m. in the night and we're locked out, which could have been fine, but the problem was we had a 18-month-old baby upstairs all alone. So me being the athletic jock I thought I was, I said, hey, there's a tree beside the balcony of the house, palm tree. Maybe I can just climb it and see what I can get into the house with that means. Immediately I jumped on the tree. I realized that my hands and my feet weren't responding to my, cues, my commands. I was like, I should be able to climb this tree. What was the problem? Mentally. I thought I was 15-year-old or 20-year-old Spider-Man, right? Not knowing that my season has changed, right? I haven't climbed the tree in about 20 years. And here I was thinking I could still climb the tree. And that's what we tend to fall into. We have this mental capacity. When we grow older, we're stuck in our younger years, right? And that is a problem. So there are seasons in life, like I said. We move from summer or spring to fall and winter. After fall comes winter. After a fall comes the winter seasons of life. And that's what this app is meant to address. What's the problem? What's the problem? On this side, the first slide, we have Alfredo. Alfredo is an elderly man and a guardian to one of our team members. Simply put, he crawls to avoid walking. The middle slide, beautiful person there is my mother-in-law and my little son who wanted to be here. My mother-in-law turned 85 last December, and she currently lives with me. 2 weeks ago, she asked me for a chair, set up a chair in her room. And I casually grabbed the nearest chair and just set it up there and placed it for her there in her room. Last week, she calls me while I was working downstairs because I worked from home. She was all the way upstairs. And I couldn't pick up the phone because I was in a meeting. And when I was done with my meeting, I picked up my phone. I called her. She said, I fell down and I can't get up. So I literally run up the stairs. Here I am now, supposed to be a fall risk professional. I run up the stairs and I see her there, just wedged between the bed and the wall. What had happened? The chair I had given her couldn't sustain her weight. I hadn't done my due diligence to make sure the chair was secure and could sustain her weight. Right? Thank God she's okay, but to see her then, knowing that she couldn't get up, that was frightening. And here we have dear Doris Drucker, Peter Drucker's wife, great Peter Drucker. Doris started her own company at 82 years old. She was 82 when she started her company. Such an accomplished woman. She died at 103, and yes, you can guess, she died from complications from a fall. What is the problem? The problem is 1 in 4 people 65 and above will fall. Problem is every 11 seconds someone's being treated for a fall, right? The problem is every 19 minutes an older adult dies from a fall. The problem is the cost of treating a fall is $30,000. That's the average cost. 2020 alone, falls cost upwards of $67 billion. Now, obviously the government is aware of this. There are solutions out there. This is CDC's algorithm, right? So basically, you screen yearly. When I'm saying screening, I'm saying people susceptible to falls. You screen yearly, and you make sure that you go through this process every year. Screen, check their stance, weight gates, do a home screen assessment. If they are at risk, you intervene and you follow up after 90 days, and the cycle goes on and on like that. So our app, the Fall Risk Assessment app, wants to solve this problem of intervening. Because in the next slide, I'm going to show you how it's done now. This is today's solution. A fall, an actual fall from an elderly triggers everything, right? The elderly person falls off, stairs or what have you. They rush to the hospital. They go through the case management or case managers. They're assigned home health professionals, occupational therapists, registered nurses, physical therapists. They do home assessments and they generate paper reports. And obviously, insurance. We can never look at insurance. Insurance pays for it all. But here's the thing, where's the actual intervention here in this model, right? Why must the fall trigger all these great activities? And this is where we come in. Our business model is to work with case managers, home health clinicians, who I call occupational therapists, physical therapists, registered nurses, and work with them with our app to intervene in the space of external fall risk assessment, right? External fall risk assessment is going to somebody's house and making sure that everything is like fall free. They check the rugs, check the stairs, check the handles, all that good stuff. And right now, we are working on an app that can do that to address the pain points of not the elderly at this point, but the next best thing. These people, home health, occupational therapists, registered nurses, physical therapists, they're the next best thing to set up people who can use this app. Or the next best thing to people who would use this app to assist the elderly. So on this side, left one, right? This side, this is the app. See the fall risk assessment app? Right. So using the app, the home health clinicians would be able to generate digital reports because how many of you know in this day and age, the healthcare industry is still a bit analog. It's so difficult to get digital reports or even the management of electronic healthcare records. Listening to the other team talking about the data from Twitter and all that data, good stuff, digitalized data. It's really, really good, but in healthcare, we still seem to be in the dinosaur age. And this is why our approach is to work on word of mouth and referrals, as well as digitalizing the whole process. So we want to work on have one-on-one relationships, establish those relationships, intervention relationship, case managers, and home health professionals. And using the app, they'll be able to generate digital reports and send those reports to various stakeholders. Because right now, the occupational therapists and the nurses, they have to draft a paper reports and then either fax, oh my goodness, the healthcare industry and faxing, fax or email it out. But here we are, our solution is to have this automated in the app, right? And not only that, insurance can get a copy, the family of the elderly can get a copy. We are also working with making sure that these are not just paper recommendations, but we have actual pictures of the home evaluation. Right? Our secret sauce also is this red piece over here. It's called the marketplace. Now, once an evaluation is done, for proper intervention, there should be a change, right? The recommendation should be implemented in the home. And the API here, or the marketplace we have functionality, would actually be able, from the app, make bids to local contractors who can come and do the home modification or update, right? And we work with designers to work with Angela's List, Kravis, and various third-party software where from the app, contractors can bid on, hey, I can do this job for this price. So at any point in time, the end user will have the most cost-effective intervention solution. Moving on, this is the product. It's a prototype of the product. And just to recap, we are digitalizing reports. We have a follow-up mechanism. So when the nurse goes to the home site and does her inspection, she can do a follow-up, a reminder, a schedule using the app. We have automated recommendations and pictures too of areas in the home that might need the correction or might need a change to happen. And this is our value proposition at this point, at this phase. So right there you have a report from CDC. This is a picture of things that could be improved or removed. We have drugs and stuff like that. All of this information will be captured in the app. Addressable market. In the US, there are 3.4 million occupational therapists. Physical therapists are registered nurses combined. But we find out that our target is in the local LA region. And when you downsize it, we are looking at about 127,000 OTs, PTs, and RNs. This is our competition from our solutions overlap. On the left and the right, we have the solutions overlap. And on the y-axis, sorry, we have the market overlap. And some of the competitors are Apple, Life Alert, Safety Culture. So how it works is on the observe quadrant, right? These are fall detection agencies. So they are low competition. Then all the way to the threat, these are people who are potentially direct competitions who could do what we're doing. However, we have the advantage of having working in the healthcare space, which they don't cover. Roadmap, this is where we're going to. Phase 5, fall prevention as a service. My background's in robotics, we're already prototyping this robot. But these various phases take us from where we are right now, which is cold start, concept, to democratizing the app and integrating machine learning models for the app. And basically, phase 4 is the topic of my dissertation. I'm working on a machine learning model that's able to classify home objects according to their propensity to cause falls in the elderly. First year, after the app is built, we're targeting 300 users. Why 300? 300 is a great number, right? If all works 300. Gideon had 300 soldiers to the Bible, whatever. But this is the amount we need to be profitable in our first year. And to build the app, it's about 52,000, and total revenue is about 1,000. If you hit that 300 member price point, and we're going to sell this at $19 per month for the users. Conclusion. To build the future, or to predict the future, you have to build it. Remember, seasons change, right? We can prevent winter by dealing with fall. Thank you.
Okay, we have an even 5 minutes for questions, and what I will just say as we go into the feedback, I think it's a great idea, but I do want to make sure that it's just one-way feedback. So if we can hold off from asking questions during that portion and try to get them into the Q&A practice, that would be great, just to give everybody their chance. Awesome. All right, 5 minutes is all yours, judges.
You said you were doing your dissertation on this. I'm super curious. Well, what's some of the data that's come out of your dissertation so far? Like what are the 3 most risky objects to have in a home as it relates to falls?
So I misspoke when I said dissertation. It's more of that's the topic of my dissertation. I haven't started, but this is the research proposal. I'm working with my advisor. But to answer your question, I analyze ICD-10 codes. So basically, ICD-10 codes are how you build ICD-10 codes.
ICD-10
Yeah,
codes.
so let's say
Okay.
all the diseases or all the healthcare incidences that can happen, generally coded. So the strategy is to, okay, let's look at this segment concerning falls. And from my preliminary analysis, it's been more of obviously stairs, right? But, going above, beyond and above that, talking about furniture, right? What is the likelihood of falling on a chair when comparing, of a chair causing a fall when compared to a bed, right? So this is the data, initially mining, but to answer your first question, definitely stairs.
And I guess if stairs is the primary one, what can, and if I'm understanding this model correctly, if you make recommendations to users as to what they could be doing differently in their home, insurance companies could reimburse for or cover some of the changes that one might make in their home. And I'm having a little bit of trouble connecting what one can do to easily, as a homeowner, remove stairs from as a risk.
Yeah, unfortunately, Medicare Part B doesn't pay for that, I know. So most of these expenses would go to the elderly themselves, right? That is the model right now.
What do you mean go to the elderly?
So they have to pay for the home modifications.
Okay.
Yeah, they have to pay for the home modifications themselves. And I'm sure there is a solution where maybe their HSA account can be used for such changes. But right now, that is not, from my research initially, so that's a bit of a viable option right off the bat.
Great, thank you.
So it's a value prop one is that we're saving paperwork because case managers can use the digital system, right? Part two is they can generate reports and take pictures and everything, communicate better with the clients and say, here's what you should change. Is that right?
Yeah. Your insurance company's clients.
Right, and then case three is this idea of a marketplace so you can find a contractor to do the work. Because if I'm a case manager, why do I spend money on this? Because it doesn't cost me any less. So what's the saving? What is the economic value here?
The target is not the case manager.
Okay.
The target are what I call home health clinicians, occupational therapists, nurses, and physical therapists.
Got it. So you're going to charge them to use this software. How much are you going to charge for this?
This is $19.99
per month. So why, if isn't it just as easy for them to I recognize from a societal standpoint, it's not as good to keep records on paper, but what's the savings to them if they're doing it digitally versus on paper or using their smartphone and just texting a bunch of pictures?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, they have to still go offline and compile paperwork. This app would have everything on board, so as they're doing their inspection, everything's being generated in time.
So it's time saving.
It's time saving, it's convenient, yes.
Okay, so does that equal dollar savings? I guess is my question. If so, how much?
That's a good question. At this point, I don't know how much it will equal to savings, but I'll tell you this. From the occupational therapist I have on my team, he told me that insurance for a home forest assessment, insurance pays between $400 and $600 per month just to inspect the house. And by the time, as a professional, if I have an app that can make my work faster, guess what?
Yeah.
The more houses I can expect.
Okay, so that's interesting, but I don't remember that in the presentation.
Okay.
Right, and that's gonna take some time.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right. Thank you so much. Rapid feedback. A couple minutes for that.
Yeah, just to give you the feedback. So a couple of things on the presentation. One is the storytelling at the beginning. I think storytelling is really powerful. It went on a little too long. I think you could have done that in a quick 30 seconds. I think the pictures were good. One person, here it is, and then move into a little bit of a simpler explanation of 1, 2, 3, this is what we do. You did that at the end. It would be good to kind of start there. The graph frankly lost me a little bit. And then the piece we were just talking about, the economics of it, that's where the rubber really hits the road on whether this is really a viable idea or not. So you really want to get that in here somewhere like, here is how the economics of this work and why, if I'm a home healthcare company, I would spend money on, why is $20 worth it? That part didn't come through. Okay, good.
Yeah, adjacent point, you shared a really intimate story when you kicked things off, and you did a fabulous job of bringing me there to when your child was in your home. But then I felt like it was disconnected from the solution you offered. I'm not sure if the app that you pitched could have solved the palm tree problem. So, just I think sharing the problem that's and then connecting it with to the solution. I think feedback for you, and then I think for all the teams so far. Also, for a presentation, like we have short attention span. Super helpful to just like in a really pithy, almost one sentence. What's the problem? What solution? Okay, let me take you all the way through. So 10,000 people annually die from healthcare-related falls, and today insurance companies pay $10 billion covering this. My contrarian view is that insurance companies should use $20 to make X modification in homes to go about changing this and solving $7 billion the bottom line spent. Let me tell you how. So I think market, problem statement, solution, and then I know where you're headed, and it helps me connect the dots on the way to your presentation also.
If you're talking to people who spend a decent amount of time in the health system, because when we first went down the path of the health system and costs and the EHR, EMR tools being inefficient, I was waiting, okay, it's a diagnostic tool, I get it, or that because it would be correlate that. Then I realized, oh, it's a home health piece. So if that's the case, that is a diagnostic tool, I was also had a series of questions. If it's a diagnostic tool, are you, because you used the term like intervention and a few things, I understand on the other side, but in that realm, it's the same kind of idea. Straight away, I want to keep people out of the ER because the cost of the, once an elderly person hits the ER, they have X% chance they're going to end up in the ICU. They're going to be in the hospital 5 days. A 5-day stay is equal to X amount of time that they might not return home. I want to keep people in the home. A cross section of, as virtual care is increasing, this is a great opportunity for an aging population in virtual care. And therefore, this is a tool that would be fantastic to keep people in their homes longer. To build a case that says, this is why now. The health system is costly for a long time. And also the data up front on the percentage of falls, what percentage actually occurs in the home? Most of them, some of them, as opposed to the health of the wellness of the patient. That causes their outside to hot.
I can Kravis. I thought it's a diagnostic tool, so it's setting all these questions, but I think the introduction was great. Maybe a little too long with the story, but I'm not exactly sure that this would go towards the insurance companies or towards the individuals, like the nurses specific their homes. Safety culture, you display. They offer free accounts for individuals, so free size offer. So where's the value coming from? If it's like ties with insurance companies, that would make sense. It's just like a tool that the nurses use to save their time, then probably competition. So that was sort of missing the added value there.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
It's for break. In the effort to keep us on schedule, I'm going to cut it by 2 minutes. So in 8 minutes, enough to use the restroom. Snacks are outside. I got scared because I didn't see them on that back table anymore, but we still have coffee and water and treats for you guys. They're just right outside. So please help yourself to that. Restroom again is all the way down the hall and to your left. And we will be back. Luna Joy, you are up next. Yes, everybody. So she's we'll go on. All right, so I'll see you in about 8 minutes.
Thanks.
Of course, no problem. Anything that's going to benefit them, and yes, it's competition, and we share for it.
Long job.
I'm just gonna pull this down.
Right, because I want to be able to find that. Have a way of thought. Right, instead of the question, are you gonna this passive data? On the other side too, like, you're gonna benefit. So benefit, sorry, but benefit is like, they're like the internet space of corporate care. And so what they do is they are a bunch of providers to companies. Basically doing what you talk about doing. They're basically saying, hey, we have everybody get on our system. And then you put refine this and all your employees can then just give directly to them during your employee. Or if they volunteer, you can set it up. So basically set a spreadsheet. And how much then we go into your system. And we try to follow that. Where that goes. Whereas how you should, because we want to steward, that's not really how to steward my dollars. Yeah. Because I, one off donate is fine. But it's not you, it's not as if I get somebody in a relationship. If I get them while they're an undergrad, right? Right now, they're gonna stick with me, continue to give my basis 10 years, right? And now they're already 100% attention. They can volunteer with me. I don't actually build a relationship. Which is great. And that's not everybody. It's schools want you to do. It's my data. What about my data? Right. But it's great. I do think the thing that excites me about you guys are talking about is this idea of being like, look, how about if you was a trusted expert before? Right. But here, I don't know who he is. Because you talk about the fraud stuff. I think that's something a problem, right? Or people who think they're doing something good, and then it turns out that like it's run by a psychopath who is doing great stuff. And then so people don't know that, and giving the clear like next year using 30% or 2. Really interesting idea. So come and tell us about your problem, why we should raise yours. And that also helps like I'm growing up, like I don't know what percent we are. So, but if it's your partner, they're saying, oh, we want to help the smaller projects. You're going to actually who has what it is, it's got their literal catalog, it's a copy flexibility, it's a technical place, it really doesn't do that much, but it's cute. And then, but because they're introverts, they're right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Right?
So YouTube will automatically like.
Think about it.
So I'll make sure to search. Yeah.
And again, you want to try to think about it, but you take it off yourself. I know how you do that. You're not really solving the problem, you're solving that there's millions of things on it that doesn't solve the problem. Right, and that's not actually that just by scraping. Because anybody can go. Now, where there's power in that, because if somebody comes in, like, I got $20 to do the year, I'm split it over 5, they just got $5. Like, it was as much work for the larger contribution as it was, you know, to get, because like, I have to pay somebody now, like, the cost of check, and like, there's a transaction cost. Right, and so, like, I'm happy to get $5, don't get me wrong, but like, I'm way happier, like, you aggregated for me. 100 people getting $5, and now I have 100 people's names that can follow up with.
Good, let me just start my timer up here. We've got three more presentations, just so everybody's got some context. All right, Luna Joy, you two tell me when you're ready to go. Okay. Everyone have every sugared, right? Okay, good. All right, let's do this. Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for coming to our presentation. My name is Soraya Hatter. I'm a second year Master of Business and Science student at KGI, as well as my partner, Lizette Rivas. This semester, we partner with a mental health therapy company called Luna Joy, and we'd like to explain to you a little bit more about the company. So, Luna Joy is actually the only live telehealth women-centric counseling and therapy platform. And what they do is they provide holistic mental health care services. As you all may know, post-pandemic, and even during the pandemic, there's a large unmet need for accessible and affordable mental health care services. Currently, Luna Joy has launched in 4 states, California, Georgia, Florida, and Illinois, and they're planning to expand to 34 states by the end of 2023. And we are currently partnered and covered by 5 major payers. So what is the service? What differentiates Luna Joy from all the other telehealth platforms out there? The therapists and the prescribers at Luna Joy, they receive specialized training so that they become experts in the women's life cycle for mental health treatment. That means in addition to anxiety and depression that all genders may experience, they also can focus on birth trauma, postpartum depression, menopause counseling, and fertility counseling. In addition, we have holistic methods of support. So in addition to the therapy, they also offer gene-based medication, nutrition plans, wellness plans, workout tools, group support, and then digitized booking. The pricing is, it ranges from $150 to $240, which is comparable to competitors. And the value proposition is that they're clinically integrated. This helps target, according to the National Institute of Mental Health, the almost 40% of people who do suffer from anxiety or depression, but do not seek treatment. And it helps to overcome the barrier of lack of accessibility and convenience for the very busy women like myself and Lisa who don't have the time to actually go and see a therapist. Unfortunately, mental health trauma is a growing market in the United States. There's a gender gap in this. Women experience anxiety and depression at higher rates than men, and this is more true post-pandemic. And regarding trends in telehealth therapy, for the fiscal year 2021, telehealth appointments grew from mental health specifically by 74%. And as of January 2022, so about 3 months ago, 88% of them were online, virtual. This is in stark contrast to about 10% of other specialties that have virtual bookings at the same time. So that means although people may be trending away from virtual telehealth appointments for other care, they're still actually interested in it for mental health. Looking at our market size, it's very large. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, over 100 million people suffer from anxiety and depression in the United States. And there are factors of 35.8%, and this gives us a TAM of about 36 million women who have presented the symptoms. Our team, myself, Lisa, and 2 others working in a class with Dr. West in the back, we've identified a beachhead market of 18 and 29-year-olds. Why? Because they have the highest prevalence of depression compared to the other age groups. In addition, they're young, they're Gen Z, they're millennials. They grew up in a digitized world, so they're used to having digitized services. And this comes to about 10 million people for our SAM. According to the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid, 1 in 3 people seeking mental health therapy seek it via telehealth. So this brings our sum to 3.3 million. Moving forward, our team did some primary research, and we wanted to figure out who are our patients. In our primary research, we identified 3 segments. One is not listed because it's not a target segment. Those are the current patients. Those are women who have a therapist. They know that they have mental health trauma. They're less likely to switch to a platform because they're comfortable with their therapist. They're comfortable with the person who knows and understands their background and their history. They don't want to switch to someone new. Our target are instead the unaware new patients and the aware new patients. The unaware new patients are the women who may experience the symptoms, but they haven't had any formal diagnosis. And therefore, they're unaware that they actually need a mental health treatment. Then there are the aware new patients. They're women who, hey, I'm going through something right now. I'm feeling anxiety, I'm feeling depressed. What help is out there? And they are intentional about going out to seek help. This is our patient acquisition model. One that is actually currently in the market, and the second that our team at KGI developed.
The first at the top is for the unaware patient. Luna Joy is currently integrated into 10 clinics across the 4 states. So what happens is the woman will go in for her normal OB checkup or for her physical. She'll check into the front desk. The receptionist will hand her a tablet. She'll fill out the evaluation tool. If she screens for positive, Luna Joy will contact that patient after their appointment and see if they're interested in the services. The second, for the aware patients, we would have to target with direct-to-consumer marketing. We would have the patient have to see the ad, preferably on social media if we're targeting our beachhead market, and then actively go and search for Luna Joy. These patients converge at the point where they decide that they want to use Luna Joy services, at which point Luna Joy will contact their payers to ensure coverage. They'll match them with a one-on-one therapist, and then the therapy sessions will begin. And moving forward, we want to show you what the patient sees. This is not, disclaimer, this is not a Luna Joy patient or a Luna Joy therapist, but this is from the DoxyMe website. I'm sorry, this is the best screenshot I could get. She's mid-speech, I promise. So Luna Joy does use DoxyMe. It is a free platform. It's actually well known, well used across many health systems. And I just want to show you guys, what the patient sees. It looks very similar to the Zoom, WebEx, and Microsoft Teams meetings we have all grown to know and love during the pandemic. So even though they don't have the comfort of, maybe being in person, they're still in a familiar environment. So now I'll pass it to my partner, Zeph, and she'll talk to you more about our team.
Thank you, Saraya. So Luna Joy was founded by 2 therapist-certified psychiatrists, Dr. Shama and Dr. Sika, and also they are supported by 4 key employees. But also, as you can see, we consider that the next objective would be hiring 2 more employees, key employees, that would be the VP of partnerships and also the regulatory affairs. Because as Saraya mentioned, the market would grow through the clinics integration. So basically, those would be the 2 new key employees. The next slide. So going to the competition, there are other platforms, virtual platforms like TIA, Telehealth, Cerebral, Ginger, Real. But basically, Luna Joy specializes in care for women, and the others is in general. So the modality is virtual for all of them. But the differential here is basically that Luna Joy integrates with clinic to do a screening process. So this is a target that are not attended by the other competitors. And also the treatment costs, as Saraya mentioned, are comparable. So it's an average price, but this would be for specialized care for women, and not only for the treatment or the therapy, also for the holistic treatment, holistic services that Luna Joy provides. In the marketing, well, basically, we want to enter to the market to gain more market through the doctor referrals. So clinic liaisons are very important here to offer some material like brochures or key opinion leaders support. And also the word of mouth is very important. So the company wants to share the patient experiences through patient content, social media, and also partners with advocacy groups. We have in the appendix of the presentation some list of partners that the company wants to partner with them, and to set campaign goals and expand the brand awareness on the national levels. And this list of insurance are the insurance companies that are in partnership with Luna Joy. So the idea is to gain more customers, more market through increasing this networking with insurance companies. So basically now Luna Joy handles 200 patients in 10 clinics in 4 states. Their next objective for the 6 months would be the team expansion. So basically hire key employees, as I mentioned, and also expand the market to 6 more. So that would be 10 states, sorry. And the next phase would be market expansion. So the objective is to expand the market to 34 states. For that reason, the funds required for these activities would be for the 2 phases. The phase 1, which is the team expansion, would require 2.5 million funding to pay salaries, to train therapists, to expand those 6 additional states. And the other phase 2 would be for the market expansion, to increase the clinic integration, do marketing campaigns and pay salary. So with that, the revenue, we have to highlight some assumptions. So the market penetration would be very conservative. With a plan to grow from 0.05, which represent 1,600 patients in this year, 2022, and to 0.25% in 2026. So that would represent 8,000 patients. But as I mentioned, this is very conservative. That would generate the revenue of 3.1 million at the end of this year, and double for the next year in 2023. Additionally, the therapists and prescribers are not working, will not work full time, or they can be part time too. So in average, every therapist or prescribers that treats 100 patients per year, and every patient has 10 sessions, and in average, and that would represent a revenue of $1,800. Well, the customer acquisition basically now is managed by a business agreement association, so it doesn't represent a cost to the company right now. And the payers, so we will continue to increase the partnership with them to grow the market. So these numbers are very conservative right now because it's the starting point, but the idea is that as we, the company continues to expand the partnership with insurance companies, with, as you see, what's Medicare in the list. So the next step would be increase the market, not also for more clinics, but also for hospitals and universities. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you so much.
All right, Team Joy, you've got about 3 minutes left on the clock, so I'm going to add that to your 5 for a total of 8. Okay. And I will go ahead and start the clock now.
So what's your guys' relationship with the company?
So we are student consultants. So it's actually for our class. We're a called Applied Entrepreneurship taught by Dr. Joel Leslie in the back. We're partnered with this company, and we have to create the business plan for a Series A funding round for them. And this is the presentation that we would present.
Cool. What do you guys think what's the importance of brand in differentiating yourself in the market and go to market compared to other customer acquisition channels? How important is brand?
I think it's important that it's women centric. I think in compared to our competitors, it's the only one that's specifically focused on women. That's not to say that they don't serve any male patients. They do have male patients, but having that women centric focus really differentiates them from the other competitors in the market.
And also, the niche, like the clinics. So the integration would give us a special place to get more patients and serve patients, do the screening test to realize if the patient has risk factors. So try to convince the patients that adopt the Joy service.
Do you guys have any people who are heading up brand or marketing on the teams, and what are their backgrounds?
I don't think we have an actual like C-suite person who's in charge of marketing. As of right now, Dr. Shama Rafi is pretty much doing all of everything.
Then I saw you guys are in sort of in-market, Facebook ads, whatever, but you guys said your CAC was 0. How does that work?
So currently, I don't know if we said we're on Facebook. We're on Facebook. Facebook. Okay. I don't think they even have marketing ads right now. Right now, they're focused on acquiring payers. And the latest one, literally like 2 weeks ago, was Medicare. That was a huge step for them. But right now, they partner with the clinic. So we asked them, we said, do you pay the clinics to give them the screener? I said, no, they just have an agreement. It lasts for a year, and they give the evaluation tool to their patients for free. And then she gave us an example. She said about 1/3 of the patients that they are screening are coming back positive. So our goal and our suggestion for them was to do an actual market research study and identify if 100 patients, are tested and 30 are the positive, of those 30, how many come to Luna Joy? And then what are the demographics and characteristics of those patients, and how do we market specifically to them? And then who are the, 25 other people, we may be missing that we can market to them?
Do your payers pay, how much your payers pay? Like, so what does Medicare pay you for? They pay you the full, they don't pay the full 150.
I don't think that we have those numbers.
Okay, so the,
They
I think
have okay.
the payment, the payment question is one of my questions, which is like $120 a shot is a lot for somebody. One of the thoughts to mental health is not just time to go, but also cost, right? So I would wonder, I'm curious on your financials, are you assuming then that you're recouping the full cost through a copay? And if so, Medicare, I'm curious what the payers are paying, right? If they're paying you $30, still a $90 copay is going to be cost prohibitive for a lot of people. So let's say the copay is 10. Now you're making $40 on a visit. What does that do to your financials in that case?
I think I assume that it's going to be that is a lot higher, seeing as the salary that we're paying the therapist in this. So I know it has to be greater than $80.
Yeah, that's all I'm wondering.
Yeah,
I think it would be helpful to know what are your payers paying, because I actually don't know. I just know when I get my bill for medical services is like, we paid them this much. We wrote this much off and they got this much out. I assume there's some economics that work out, but curious with that. I'm when looking at the revenue numbers, I'm curious where those are coming from. If they're just getting payers on what they're paying.
Okay.
So your Series A reference was interesting relative to your penetration numbers. And what, if you had 4 years, you grow 7,000 patients.
Yes, so it's a hypothetical project, but we'll say that, for the class. But we did do our assumptions before we learned that they had secured Medicare. So when we did our assumptions, they had Signum and Optum, and they had two. So as of 3 weeks ago, they've expanded immensely, and that's going to change our numbers. That we have to go back to the drawing board to update.
Right.
That
could be challenging for an A round, for sure. And starting with 16K, going straight to an A round is not revenue stream, is what I'm talking about, but you never know. And how does that relate to customer acquisition costs? Is there a chart in terms of, as long as the customer acquisition cost stays zero and it's all based on integration deals, then that's our penetration growth? Or what would happen if you started to shift other acquisition vehicles, which are maybe what some of the questions were coming over here? Do you have an idea of what would happen if you decided to go outside and go to primary? There's a number of primary care physicians, for example, who don't take insurance. You have to privately bill it. So that could be a vehicle or something of that nature. Okay, especially in women's health.
What's been the growth month-over-month?
As of October, I think they started with like 10 patients. Recently, they acquired a practice, which gave them, they got all the patients with the practice, so they got 75 patients with that acquisition. And then with the average annual treatment revenue as listed, which we got directly from Dr. Robbie. So very, very minimal to date, but we are anticipating that it will be larger with the new payer acquisitions.
And what's been the funding to date?
The funding to date.
And how much are you raising?
How much are they currently raising?
Yes.
For Series A?
Yes.
Our suggestion to ask was about 20 million.
That would be for basically to pay the salaries of the therapists and prescribers. But also the other way would be just for the initial, and then the business can sustain itself with the revenues.
In addition, because we just because of added Medicare, right now the clinical integration is strictly it's clinics, but in adding Medicare, we just think irresponsible to not, go after hospitals. And we feel that the hospital agreements are not going to be these small free agreements that we're able to establish with the clinics.
There's a whole sector of federally qualified health providers, FQHPs, that are lacking completely. That's a huge higher percentage. So maybe you make more, but you get more patients. And the question also is on the revenue side. It's a revenue forecast. Wondering, do you have the corresponding actual profitability estimate?
We did, but we're like they were 50% approximately in gross profit, considering gross profit with the revenue.
Yes, we did, and we removed it due to we realized our financial model had to change.
Gotcha.
Yes.
That's time. Next few questions, and we'll move into our rapid feedback.
Yeah, I thought really polished, clear presentation. I think one thing that's just like low hanging fruit here is like, tugging at the heartstrings a little bit more, and like again, like putting me in the shoes of like the scope of this problem. I think something like 70 or 80% of all funding in like biotech and healthcare has gone to outcomes related to male patients, and like women's health is just an incredibly underserved market, and everything really from how we prescribe pharmaceuticals to how we prescribe mental health, it's all just backwards in this department. And I think like putting us more in the shoes of like this female user who is not being served well by the healthcare, the mental health like system, with a personal story or a story about like some of the patients you're serving, the outcomes you're generating, would really I think help a listener get like more excited and emotionally connected with what you guys are doing. I also you guys had business metrics, but when you're post revenue and at this stage of the business, I'm very curious about growth and what plans are for acquiring users, because that's going to be one of the most important sort of like next steps. So having like a really clearly baked plan for we have $20 million. Like, how are we going to actually acquire users? Because it's not like like the Facebook ads of the world are getting any easier. That gets more expensive over time, and what you're sort of like how your partnership clinics scale, and getting a better sense of like what that plan is for user acquisition now that you have a product in market that presumably has some like product market fit. So understanding that would have been helpful. But overall, really strong presentation.
Yeah, mostly what he said. I think that that's a good statement. As a man in the healthcare system, like I don't know what the challenges are that we're facing. I can certainly read about them, but I think that would have been helpful to me because, like, look, the system isn't working for them, and this is a solution specifically for that. And that was because I think sort of that it's nice, it's polished business case there, but I was missing. He said that emotional touch, like why do I care about this?
I would just put straight currently, if you potentially consider health equity as the health equity from multiple vectors. It's you have the women, but it's also women potentially suffer from homelessness or their particular attributes, and this particular app will get there this way. And I'm not selecting an attribute, but something about health equity is a challenge.
Yeah, maybe just came to my mind. I went to May around not too long ago. With that revenue, it's going to be challenging. You're going to need a lot of metrics and predictions and models and budget in place. A very clear go-to-market strategy. A lot further away, but it took almost like 6 months, and they look at almost it's like deep dives on these things. So having the numbers ready.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right, now we will. All right, so we will welcome up Team 5, Food Decoded. think they're absolutely. One second to get back to my seats. Are we gonna wait for one else or should we? Yes, absolutely. Let's make sure we do that. That would be a good idea.
Very considerate twice.
I got one. Or yeah, we could just throw them off. Okay. Brittany, do you know if sound is shared? I'm sorry. Do you know if sound will be shared out? It should. Okay. Thank you. It'll certainly share here, which is what I'm most concerned about. So we should be there. Okay. We've got 15 minutes on the clock, and I'll hit the green start button when you guys are ready. Yeah, we're ready. Awesome.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're Team Food Decoded, and we're here to talk about a bio-based application that we intend to offer for people who want to make an informed grocery shopping decision. As someone who personally suffers from a bunch of food intolerances and allergies, grocery shopping is a nightmare for me. But if you don't believe me, let's look at this video that talks about how kids these days that suffer from food allergies and intolerances suffer from what kind of challenges.
Sometimes when I'm eating something I'm not so sure about, and I'm nervous that I'm going to start having an allergic reaction. It's scary. Well, it's hard because you can't eat things like you do normally. When I talk about my allergy, some people in my class say, I don't have any allergies, and just make me feel a little sad. I didn't want to be remembered for the kid with food allergies. I wanted to be remembered as like a great gymnast or a kid who did something great or someone who changed the world or just made the world a better place. When I was younger and in elementary school, you had like a peanut-free table where like kids with allergies had to sit there, and you could have like 2 or 3 friends come with you, and it's kind of like all my friends are over there. It's been really nerve-wracking because I'm really paranoid about things.
Well,
sometimes when I'm eating something I'm not.
Well, so our problem is basically the quality of life and all the health challenges that all of these kids, adults, and their parents suffer from when making decisions while performing grocery shopping and deciding what to eat and all of these other social events and engagements.
So now that we understand the implications of allergies and intolerances, let's look at the US market and what that looks like. And so given the US population, we divided it into 2 market segments, which is pediatrics and adults. From that, we divided it into the 3 allergies that we are launching with, which is tree nut, milk, and peanut. And so from that, we also included milk intolerances, which is 68% of the US population. And that gives us a combined total market, which then we subtracted away 30%, assuming from our own internal studies that we conducted, a small pilot study, I should disclose, that 70% of users, whether they have intolerances or allergies or know someone who does, is interested in applications such as this. And so we also took away competitors market, which we'll talk about in a bit, but which gives us a total market size of 100 million people. So I know this is a large market and we're not probably going to get 100 million users from the first year, but it is a very large market. Additionally, food allergies within the US are on the rise. Recently, the CDC announced that 18% increase within the past decade. 51% of those with allergies experience some sort of severe food allergy reaction, which costs us about $24.8 billion annually. Of that, 4.3 billion is direct medical costs.
So presenting to you Food Decoded, which helped all of these parents, kids, and young adults in making informed grocery shopping decisions in 3 simple steps. The first step is to create a user profile on our mobile application. Next, you go grocery shopping, take the product, and then scan it via the mobile application on your phone. And then you review the product compatibility based on the feedback that has been provided by the app. How does Food Decoded serve our customers? So our customer category has been divided into 2 population bases, as talked about previously. So we look at customers with food allergies and customers with food intolerances. So they create a profile, they input their food sensitivities by selecting the food allergens or triggers from a drop-down list on the app, and then they scan the food item to verify the food allergy or triggers present on the product and review the feedback, which would comprise of either a positive match, a negative match, or a warning. So a positive match would imply that the product would have a food allergen or trigger. The negative match would imply that there is no food allergen or trigger on the product. And the warning would reveal that the product has traces or has been manufactured in a facility that has allergens or these food triggers.
And so looking at the competitors market, these top 5 apps are ones that we consider direct competitors. And so we're basing our analysis on these 5 criteria, which are the 5 features that we are launching with. That being, as she said, package scannability, being able to have multiple users under the same app, having multiple allergies and intolerances included in our database, which will be over 500,000 packaged food items, and in an integrated database, meaning that users don't need to input any information. And so as you can see, the top 5 apps offer some, but not all. And so this is where Food Decoded, those check marks should be lower. And so this is where Food Decoded is addressing the gap in the market.
So the next big question is, where do we make money? So in looking at our revenue model, the starting base membership is $3.99 a month. And then looking at our phase 2, which I'll go into a little bit later, we're looking to include a premium feature that also has educational services. And that would bump up to $8.99 a month. And that could be something users opt into or opt out of. And then the next thing we're looking at is social media partnerships. So while this would be a cost out, the idea here is that this would attract more users and therefore bring in more revenue from the membership fees. And then the next thing we're looking at are ad campaigns and allergy testing partnerships. And these would work as a 2-way street. So looking at our timeline, for phase 1, the most important thing here is, of course, our product launch. But what's really important about this product launch is this partnership with the FDA, specifically the USDA, which holds this list of the allergies that we need to cross-reference our scannability. And part of this phase 1 is hiring the key development team and, of course, releasing this product to market. In phase 2, we're looking to expand the number of allergies and intolerances users have access to. So here we would probably be looking at the next, which would be gluten. And as I said before, this would also include the launch of this premium educational service. And this is where we really want to start doing more social media marketing and partnerships. In phase 3, we're looking to release another allergy and intolerance. So here we're looking at soy. And in phase 3, we're also looking at establishing partnerships with grocery stores and suppliers. So that way we can offer alternatives to our users if something pops up positive for an allergy or an intolerance. And also partnerships with food intolerance and allergy testing labs. So that way we can direct users potentially where to go if they need a better understanding of their own food allergies or food intolerances and want a verified source to get that looked at. And then onward, we want to keep adding additional allergy and intolerance groups, and we also want to add additional features to really make this product something that our users are going to use to make this a much easier process.
Okay, next, I'm going to discuss the marketing plan. So as mentioned before, we're primarily targeting people who have food intolerances and allergies. But of those people, we're not going to get all of them. So where do we get higher conversion rates? So we think of these people who might be more motivated to seek solutions, and they're like being proactive seeking solutions. So where might we find them? So we think if we go to webinars, health conferences, things like that, and we can go to these events, like at least attend one event per quarter, and there we can engage these potential users, maybe in a small group or one-on-one, explain what our app does and what value it can offer. So that is one avenue we can get new users. And also we can think about approaching or partnering with brand ambassadors and content creators, because these channels, these health channels sometimes command a large audience of people who are motivated to seek apps like these that help them get better health, basically. So getting new users is one thing, but we need to make sure that we retain them, so retention. So mobile marketing platform, we can think about investing in this, having some sort of screen flow where we can track user engagement as they navigate in the app. Where are they spending time? Where are they losing interest? So we can address those problem areas. And also, we can also think about marketing metrics like what if we incentivize the users to by providing them with a small gift card balance or in-app purchase balance, for example, for sharing the experience, sharing reviews if they like the app, things like that. So this is a very rough outline of where we're going to spending our efforts and resources on over the next few years. As mentioned before, like this whole project is very expensive. So we estimated it at 2.5 million annually in spending. So we think that obtaining funding is top priority. And the way we do that is we build a prototype that better explains the value of this app and what it can offer. So we want to do that as soon as possible. That's the first thing we did in the first year. And we want to launch it for market testing. And for later stages, we can think about refining it. So continuing to do market research, understanding what users want and need, and performing competitive intelligence to see what other apps are doing and what they're offering, and adjusting our app based on that information. So I'll hand it over.
So in terms of looking at an advisory board, we know we need one. And there's more people that we likely need, but to start off with, we're really looking at three key people that we want to have. So the first is a nutritional expert, because we want to ensure that the information we're providing is valid. And the same goes with the allergy and intolerance expert. We want to make sure that what we're providing to our users, the information that they're getting, has backing. The next is somebody, potentially a software engineer, somebody who knows code. We need to have somebody who has experience on the other side of that table, so that way they can provide us feedback on how to best develop this app, so that way it really meets what users need and enhances the user experience. And in terms of a potential leadership team, the four of us all have science backgrounds, and many of us studied in science labs during college. And currently we're all business students, so we're really passionate about coupling our current business experience with our science backgrounds. And as Anuksha said, some members of our team do have food intolerances and food allergies. And so in developing this app, we really wanted to find something that would not only meet the needs of of us, but also other users out there, to find something that really brings together everything that they need. And with that, we are happy to expand on anything and answer any questions. Okay, so we have about 2:20 left on the clock, so we'll have 7 minutes, 20 seconds for Q&A. All right, and I'll start the clock with the first question.
So nice, clear presentation, understand what you're doing, which is great. Two questions I'm wondering about. As far as the app, how complicated is this to do? Since none of you have built an app, right? So how do you know it's even doable?
So we did reach out to somebody, full disclosure, we reached out to my sister who is a software engineer.
Good enough.
And we kind of had like a mock interview with her to get a better understanding of what this would really look like because she has experience. She developed her own app, so we wanted to kind of get a better insight of what that would actually look like. And she said it would, it's difficult, but it's much easier if you have the database because then you don't need to make a database. So that's where that partnership with the FDA was really important. And the key thing she said is for a developer, you want to give them very clear cut. We want X to equal Y in the app. They don't want to have to make any decisions about how it's going to work. So a lot of that initial decision making would come from the team and from software engineers and UX designers of what we want that to look like. And then after that has essentially been designed, it goes to the developer. It's very clear cut what needs to be coded and made. And then essentially they hit the ground running trying to set that up.
But then this is a question. You know that you can scan the barcode, that will pop up all the nutrition information. And then there is a database that can look at that nutrition information. And somehow you have an engine that analyzes it and spits out so you know all those things exist and it's really about somebody who can link them up.
Yeah, so there's MyFitnessPal app, MyFitnessPal app as well, if you're familiar with that. And so what that does is that helps you with keeping track of all the calories that are associated with the packaged food. So they necessarily do not deal with the ingredients as such, but there are a lot of other competitors that we pointed out before that do something similar, but they're restricted in terms of what they offer. So to answer your question, yes, that's doable. We can scan the barcode on the product, on the packaged product, and that can link us to that database. And it can also kind of correlate with the FDA database that we intend to partner with and check whether that product has that ingredient or not. So it has been done before. It hasn't just been performed in a way that we intend to provide the information.
And do you know if the FDA database is open source or if do you have to, okay, so they would be willing to, they're not gonna like keep that, I mean, they already got it, so. All right, then on the financials, have you thought about this? So one, I'm wondering, have you thought about a freemium model where you get to like first 5 scans are free every month? I wonder if that might be something to think about. And then it wasn't clear to me how many people do you need to make money?
So for the first question, I think going back to what Evan said about potential incentives, I think we're all in agreement that some sort of trial period would be beneficial just to have users get familiar with the app and decide, yes, this is something that's going to work for me, or maybe this isn't a great app for me to use before you spend $3.99 a month to start using it. And then in terms of how many users we need, we did have it in our initial financial models, but these are not updated. They have not been fully updated based on our premium feature. So we don't have exact numbers of how many people we would need. But the key with the $3.99 is that it would be enough to start making revenue, so that way we can drift away from solely using funding.
So the entirety of this database that you guys are going to use is open source, and it's the FDA database.
Yeah, so the USDA is actually in partnership with a lot of other open source databases, and I actually downloaded it. It has over 2.1 million packaged products under, which lists all the nutritional facts, including the allergens.
Does it include the information related to whether the product was manufactured in a facility that has other allergens?
Yes, since all products have to disclose that.
And there are also a lot of independent organizations that prepare these kind of databases. So there's like specific database which has kind of also been provided by the users. So that's kind of user input data. But since we focus on providing information that is reliable and accurate, we intend to partner with FDA directly, because that would be like a direct information from what the packaged items and all of these food companies have submitted to FDA for security. So a lot of other competitors kind of partner with all of these other independent organizations as well at times to make it more kind of user-centric and like incorporate participation of the users, but that affects the accuracy of the information that they provide.
I saw one of the competitors had all the features that you guys thought were valuable except for multiple user profiles, the shop one. Why is multiple user profiles a killer feature for your app?
Yeah, I can address that. So as I mentioned before, the prevalence of food allergies is growing. And it's specifically for pediatrics, meaning that there's going to be a lot of parents out there that don't have experience with food allergies shopping for children with allergies. And so the multiple user idea was that, so if you have multiple children, you can have multiple user profiles for them with different types of allergies, so that it's easier for the mother to shop, for example.
So a great use case scenario for that particular situation would be, let's say, a parent who has kind of eaten everything all their lives, but they have their kid who has a gluten allergy. So they don't know how to struggle with that. And if they have multiple kids, it becomes overwhelming for them, especially with an umbrella term as gluten, because that means wheat, a lot of like wheat-based items and different kind of flours as well. So having that multiple user profile is really helpful for the parent to keep track of which kid or like which person's items are we going to kind of incorporate in the app.
I'm gonna join the team for 2 seconds as a parent. It's also the sleepover, the child, the birthday party.
Yeah.
You have to bring the snacks to the classroom. So just I'm back.
That was actually part of the video.
Team now.
Yeah. All right, that actually brings us to time. Rapid feedback, judges.
I like the idea. It's a nice presentation of the idea. I think I think a slide on the economics would have been, for me, would have been like, okay, I get this, right? Because I walked away not entirely. I haven't walked away, but I sat here. I was like, oh, okay, really interesting idea. Seems feasible. But is this the idea? Is this like, the world is littered with apps that were good ideas that never made any money, right? And so that's sort of the question. It was like, okay, but how does this make money? And I get the market size, feature set, I'm a parent, food allergies, but I get if I had to, I want to be able to do that. So that was really, I was going to say, something else to put in there is just kind of crystallize the economic picture a little bit of like.
We do have an appendix slide with the financial information side.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, don't do it now because you can't respond. But anyway, just I would put that in your main things, just something to make the case of like we can make money with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a nice presentation. There's a lot of focus on like your competition and using your competition as an insight for where you should like get product development, which I think is in contrast to a lot of like user first insight to develop product development. It was also a little bit confusing on your capital raise. You guys said you wanted like $2.5 million per year for spend. Typically you see an ask of $5 million. That'll give us, let's say, 24 months of runway, which allow us to reach these milestones. So just kind of like a little bit of a nit there. And then I think your insight around sort of like, this demographic of parents who may not be catered to around like nutrition is really interesting. But I also didn't see that really baked into how you might think about go-to-market or your initial users, right? Like I would want to like, wow, that's actually kind of an interesting sort of like nugget you guys have there. Maybe that could inform like you're acquiring parents first or you're targeting toward users, or that would impact how you think about brand differentiation if the competitive landscape looks like that. So I would push you guys to like take that insight one step further into how you think about go-to-market.
Why $3.99, not $5.99?
We're just looking at the competitors, and that seems like a good price.
Where I'm going with my question is, I've read this really good book called Monetizing Innovation. By the way, I'm going to pretend like I'm very smart. I just read a book, but I'm totally guilty. When we were building our company, we did exactly the same thing like all of you guys are doing, like build a product and then price it. But, and for many companies, this is sort of hard to do, what I'm going to say, but specifically in your case, I think with your product, you would be able to do a really quick market research on your users' willingness to pay. So that would be the TP. And I think that would be very, very helpful for you guys as far as pricing and whether actually there's a market for your product and how much are they willing to pay and what features they value. And I don't think it's going to be that expensive, specifically in such a large market. So that's something I would encourage you to do. And actually, all of the companies here, we made mistakes and we paid a lot of money for it, not doing this ahead of time. So otherwise, great presentation. I mean, it's clear.
Similar, great presentation. So I'm gonna add some comments, but knowing that asking for money is really great to be focused. So, but I think there's some interesting opportunities of kind of the categories of what you didn't choose in that quality of life versus life saving. So it seems like this was a quality of life kind of pitch, and the quality of life then is selection. Potentially other partners or other ways to look at it would be offsetting marketing spends for grocers or online services or other things. If that's the case, also people are maybe what happens with the person who's trying to have a other wellness aspect of weight loss or weight gain, whatever it might be, how would that integrate? Do you have to maintain two and try to figure it out? On the life-saving side, potentially you have an opportunity in compliance, especially on the pediatric side. It was kind of a category of want to keep children out of the ER, or want to keep children out of the medicine. Want to keep, you don't want to have to take the medicine to recover from a life-threatening issue. So the opportunities there might be the insurers would play, some of the healthcare systems would play potentially. It's a longer putt, but potentially thinking about different revenue models that would work.
Thank you. Good job. All right. Believe it or not, we are headed into our last but not least presentation. Well, I'm going to pull your
So I'm just gonna leave a sample of the product here, so if someone wanna check it out while I'm presenting. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Awesome. Absolutely. And I will cue you when I've got my All right, come on, you let me know when you're ready and I'll start.
Sure. So I'm here to present for Pavanas, and my name is Komal Gada. And until the late or mid 20th century, we all knew the basic human needs was food, water, shelter, and clothing. But as we get into the 21st century, to achieve even our basic needs, electricity is our primary need. We need electricity to not only achieve our basic needs, but to have social connections with people, to transport, and many other things. So are we able to produce that much of electricity? Like we are living in, United States with the well-lit city where we have abundance of electricity. So let's just talk about United States for a second. Okay, so
before we begin, let me just introduce the team members. Who are we? So my name is Komal Gada, and I am a PhD candidate in engineering and mathematics. And my partner, Dr. Hamid Rohai, got 35 years of experience in aerodynamics and product designing, and is also the chair at research in California State University. We work at Center for Energy and Environmental Research Services, which is a part of Long Beach State University. We got an intern hired, Leo Torres, who is going to be in charge of our operations and financial side. We will be hiring additional field specialists and sales personnel at the end of 2023, in the third quarters or the fourth quarter of 2023. So let's look at the CO2-based emission from the United States. Compared to the global production, United States ranked third in per capita CO2 production. It produces approximately 17 tons of CO2 per capita. But if you look at the total CO2 production, United States is number one, producing more than 14 billion tons of CO2. So what is the solution? Fossil fuels is 75% contributing to the greenhouse emission. Now, the only alternative moving forward to stop the climate change is going green, using renewable sources. But compared to the demand required in the United States is only able to produce 20% of its total energy requirement using renewable sources, which is pretty low compared to the amount of energy required. If you compare to other countries like Brazil, more than 85%, and Norway and other European countries are way higher in their needs. Now, what are the types of renewable energies available? We have hydro, which has been there for centuries. Then we have solar, wind, geothermal, and others. Now, hydro has been a stable production in the US for energy for quite a while now. But for the past couple of decades, wind energy has been really kicking in there. It has grown rapidly, and in 2020, first time, wind energy contributed more in renewable sources production than the hydro energy. Now, US produces total of about 840 terawatts of electricity annually just using renewable sources, which contributes to only 20% of the total energy required for the US. Now, out of those 840 terawatts, wind energy produced 336 terawatts in 2020, which is a lot, because United States has wind turbines installation in more than 1,500 farms across the country, and 7 of those farms are only in California, and more than 4,000 farms in Texas. Now, if you see, in terms of wind turbine, US has 67,000 wind turbines installed across the United States. Now, 67,000 generating 122.5 gigawatt of hour energy, which is the second largest wind turbines installation in the world. But we're still able to only produce 20% of our need. We need to install more wind turbines to contribute more to the green energy. Now, why are we not doing that? Because we have the land in the US, but we still are not able to implement more wind farms. The reasons been cost initiated with the wind turbine. So let's see how the wind turbine works. Air coming in connects to the wind turbine blade. The wind turbine blade connects the air kinetic energy into mechanical energy, which is converted by a generator into electricity and has been provided. So the blade does most of the work for the wind turbine, and that's how the electricity is generated. but the cost associated with the blade, a wind turbine lifespan by itself is only 20 to 25 years. So one wind turbine only lifespan is 20 to 25 years, and the blades, each wind turbine has 3 blades, each blade lifetime is only 8 to 12 years. So in its lifespan, it needs to go through either 2 or 3 blade changes. Now, each blade, when replacing, costs up to $200,000 for the farm owners. And even with the lifespan of 8 to 12 years, blade needs to go through a regular maintenance every 3 to 5 years. So that means a lot of money has been put into maintaining, generating that clean energy. Now, in that maintenance cycle, each maintenance cycle costs an average of $30,000 per blade. Okay, so let's see how much the turbines actually make money. Now, this is at the lower end. Wind turbine usually operate at 35 to 65% of its theoretical maximum capacity because the wind is not always at the same speed. So this is from the Weather Guard report, and they are based in Texas. So their charges is based on the Texas, which is 2 cents per kilowatt of energy. Now, most of the wind farms in US uses 1 megawatt or 2 megawatts of wind turbines. Very few of the recent ones are opting for the bigger ones, but if you even consider the 1 megawatt wind turbine, it only makes $61,000 a year. Now, consider the cost of maintenance and everything, it doesn't leave much money in the wind farm owners. So, what is our goal? We want to contribute to the United States pledge of going net zero carbon emission country by the year 2050. We also want to optimize more greener and efficient way of generating power to sustain. And we want to help our customers, which are the wind turbine farm owners, improve or increase their AEP, which is the annual energy production. So if they can produce more energy within that given time, it gives them more money. So we developed 2 products. We got already 1 patent for the current product, which I have shown you. And we developed 2 products subsequently from this product, which are going to be solely for wind turbines. The patent is going to be filed in June of this year, and we're currently working on the paperwork for the patent. So the first product is rip vortex generator, and the second one is tunnel vortex generator. They both have their own specific needs. They have pros and cons, and they can be only used in certain areas of the wind turbines. So, what benefits does our product provide? It improves the performance and reliability. That means it increases the energy production by up to 15%. So AEP goes up 15%, that means revenue goes up 15%. Then it better manages the aerodynamic load across the wind turbine blade. So, the wind is not always lean or same speed, but also because of the hurricanes and tornadoes, the wind affects a lot to the turbine blade. It creates cracks, fractures due to environmental condition. It creates surface fatigue and all. So our blade protects that and can reduce those by up to 85%. So it reduces the cost on repairing the cracks and fractures by up to 85%. And the maintenance cycle, instead of 3 to 5 years, can go up to 5 to 9 years. So if a wind turbine life is 20 to 25 years, instead of replacing the turbine blade like through its lifetime twice, we can have the turbine blade go through its original blade through the entire lifetime, thus reducing the overall cost for the farm owners. Now, how do we achieve this? So, as I said, we have identified through our previous research 4 key areas or 4 key zones for a wind turbine. Zone 1 is the leading edge where a lot of environmental conditions affects, where a simple tape, which is the product 1, is good enough. Zone 2 and 3 uses mostly the ripped-based vortex generator, because the ripped vortex generator reduces the aeroelastic fluctuation, because the wind turbine blades are more taper and more fragile towards the tip. So more better load management is required there. And zone 4 towards the root, where majority of the lift is generated for the turbine, we use the tunnel vortex generator, which maintains the speed and uniformity, and then it generates the lift, it generates power. Now, the result shown below is how we achieve. We create a CAD model using computer-aided designing. We model the turbine blade. We analyze the results on what are the key pressure points in our blade, and then what type of height, width, or thickness of our product would suit that particular turbine. And we use physical parameters like pressure and skin friction coefficient to achieve it. Now, our target customer is going to be the US to start with, but initially for phase 1 of our company, we're going to target California. Now, in California itself, there are more than 3,500 turbines generating more than 6,000 megawatts of energy. Now, in phase 2, we will be trying to reach out to the turbine manufacturers company directly and licensing our product out on a yearly license fee, where we will be getting more royalties and least amount of cost out of pocket, because we won't have to manufacture or install anything. Now, our competitors, so there are many competitors generating vortex generator, each for its own individual purpose. But the major competitors are like the Edgewind, 3M, and WeatherGuard. Now, Edgewind only improves the aerodynamic features like generating more lift, that's it, but doesn't protect against the environmental conditions or doesn't provide better load management. 3M is easy to install, but still just generates a better aerodynamic performance. And WeatherGuard is protecting from the environmental conditions like lightning and hailstones and weather conditions. But we provide all of those, plus in addition, we also give them better load management and it's easy to install. So the growth of the company and the sales plan is right now we are coming to the end of our feasibility study. We've been working on this research since 2021, and now, and by the end of the feasibility study, we will be filing our patent, establishing the company, registering an LLC for the company. Now, after that, our pivotal study will be where we're going to try and approach and establish contacts with the wind turbine farm owners in California, and then try and install our product on at least one of the turbines by the end of this year, so we can monitor our performance in real time. Now,
that is time.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So,
Great, I will start 5 minutes for the Q&A with the first question.
So, looks like a really interesting product, and certainly the market is out there and growing. I'm curious on I get the tape, you put it on there. So, how does it work? So you guys are saying you want to produce it. It seems like your primary objective is to license it, so to get you guys out of the business of installation. Is that
no?
Right?
So when we license it, we license it to the company. Now, although the blade lasts only 5 to 7 years, but the turbine life cycle is longer, right?
Yeah.
So when we license it to the company installs it on their product while they
From go, they started.
for the go. And then when they have to replace it, they call us for the new product, we install it for them. Secondly, our product benefits the weight distance. So on the installation, if one farm can hold, say, for example, 1,000 wind turbines to start with, if the company starts using our product from day one, they can install 1,015 turbines. 1,150. So 15% more turbine installation
In a given area.
in the given area because they can install closer to each other.
I see. So not only, just to understand it, not only saves on the wear and tear, you also are actually generating more, I don't know, lift's not the right word, but
more AEP, which is annual energy production. That's the metric used to calculate wind turbine power.
so the blades will spin faster or better with tape on
Better,
without the tape.
yes, yes.
Got it. So you actually increase the efficiency with, so it's sort of the equivalent of like winglets on a
Exactly.
on an
Yes. So
airplane.
we published the paper last month, which was done on NASA's Common Research Model Aircraft Wing, showing the results published at SAE's Aerotech Conference 22, paper number 004.
Got it. And sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so can you walk me through the provenance of the IP? Who actually will hold who will hold the patent? And
It's me and Dr. Hamid Rohai. We're going to hold the patent in conjunction.
so where did the funding for the research come from? Because it's not in the.
So right now it's going to go out of our pocket. That's what we're trying to minimize.
The research, not the filing.
Yeah, the research and the finding.
So because you referenced it being part of the Cal State system.
So we are a student, so we can use the Cal State equipment at a concession rate. So we got a discounted rate. So for example, we want to use the wind tunnel or a software, we got a discounted rate for the Cal State.
But you own all the IP.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Were the papers already published on the research?
Yes.
It's going to be hard to patent if it's already been published.
No, so that's what we published the first design paper, and that patent provisional was filed last year.
I'm lost on the research dollars to figure this out. So okay.
So the Cal State system doesn't have like an IP group within the university that takes 5%, 10%.
They do have it, but they do have it, but we chose not to go through it. So that is why we're gonna pay for. Because if we go through them, they charge 15%.
What does it mean to go through them?
So if we accept Cal State offer to go through it, like if we use the facilities for free and we say, okay, we're gonna develop the product in.
So you paid for use of the facilities.
Exactly.
So the option is, if you pay for use of the facilities, then they hold no licensure.
Exactly. It's like we are giving them a project, a contract to get something done. This is the money, we get the stuff done, and everything is owned by us.
Are there any other companies that went this route and paid for the use of facilities and then 100% of the IP?
Edgewind in 2017 did the research on conformal vortex generator. They generated, so they paid Cal State. That's the same department they did the research from. And they paid Cal State $32,000 to do the research and get all their products finalized. And then they didn't, I think the patent is still in process, but they generated a revenue of $398,000 for last year.
And they own 100% of the company?
Yes.
You can build that. That's it. We'll have a conversation afterwards.
So how does it work? How does the physics behind it work?
So this is developed by the concept of biomimicry. If you're familiar with biomimicry, it is the study of nature and lifestyle. So dolphin skin and shark skins have been studied for a decade now. Now, the reason was to see how they can reduce drag and still maneuver that efficiently in water. So this design is basically a derivative of dolphin skin, and then we took it further by using hawks. So if you've seen a hawk fly, it can stabilize more better because of its feather, the way it vertically, controls. That's how we get our ribbed vortex generator. It's a combination of dolphin skin and the hawk's feather.
You're at time. All right, last round of rapid feedback, judges.
Yeah, real quick, this IP sounds really interesting. I'm no scientist or physicist, but it's novel, and I know how powerful biomimicry has been in so many other terms of tech innovation. So I think it's awesome that you're working on this problem, particularly for climate. I feel as though you probably could have cut the first half of your presentation. I think we get the wind problem, and we could have jumped closer in. I think, like I said with one of the other presentations, you start with something really punchy so that we know where we're headed. The first
we already submitted our presentation yesterday, so we didn't get a chance.
Sure, totally. So, starting with a, hey, X problem, Y, Z, and I'm here to tell you about that today. I also don't feel like I know anything about your background. Clearly, you're technical, and you're pursuing a PhD in a relevant field. But I'd love to know more about your background and credibility bringing something like this to market. And same thing with your advisor. So I felt like these are the types of things that we could emphasize more in the presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, agree on the yeah, way too much in the front end. I kept waiting, okay, tell me about the tape. I want to know about the blue thing. So I also think that I feel like you have such a rich product here to talk about, and it's a very timely product. It's super interesting. When you got into the numbers of like the maintenance cycle and the margins being low on I really want to know, like, okay, so it's going to fix the maintenance cycle. Great. I really wanted you to bring it home for me. Like, here's what the savings are going to look like, right? The margins go up to here. Yeah. Maybe you're about to get to that, but right, you're bearing the lead here on that stuff. I also, my question, I get the study happened in 2021, and you can't answer this now, but how do you know you're going to extend it out by 8 years? I presume, on life cycle, right? So I can get the drag, right? You can sort of model that out. But I would wonder, like, how do you know it works over an 8-year cycle? So you can't answer that now, but I would wonder that in your presentation.
Sure. Yeah. We use.
Yeah, you can't answer that. You keep going. Tell me later.
I got the concept and kind of all makes sense. I think the biggest thing for me was the IP there. I think I would comment more on that because it clearly relies on the IP. And to me, it's not a simple process. We did file several patents. It's just a want to know exactly how that's.
So yeah, we can decide to go with the school if we find it too challenging. So they provide us with a lawyer, like a patent filing lawyer, but they then take, I think, 15% of the IP.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think similar comments. It was the front. I had the same exact written. The front end on the issue of renewables, of which is better or which country is more offensive in terms of. It seemed like that almost the opportunity was there's a worldwide play. Yeah. We're choosing the U.S. first because it has such this kind of already installed base, or is installing at this rate because if it's a new product rather than an upgrade, you want whoever's installing more now. Yeah. And then California, maybe a perspective is, yes, the U.S. has a 2050 commit to TrueNet as opposed to just net, just.
Yeah, True. That's what they pledge instead of committing.
Right, but California, particular regions have 20, 35, 45 goals, so it would be an opportunity to say so that's why we picked California versus, say, Texas, which is bigger, because it wasn't clear for Trump, but why you got the bigger pie versus smaller pie.
Also, is that dolphin safe?
No. That is a PVC plastic.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You can see a bunch of nappies, guys. Thank you.
Round out our presentations. I will take care of it. You're all good. Thank you so much. And so I'm gonna, everybody say goodbye to our